stupid? Oh my gosh, we have a poll in chat about tea. You know what? I voted milk.
There's an option missing here, which is I don't drink tea. By the way, the ship is now getting frosty.
What?
It's getting its own load, but that's not tea. That's liquid oxygen. Oh,
yeah,
hang
you
on.
can see the frost line developing there on. Go ahead.
I gotta write down this time because it's usually 72 minutes
Yeah.
from frost appearing to test.
It's odd that it's such a long period of time for the static fire tests on a ship when actually loading the entire full stack for launch is what, like 45, 50 minutes?
Yeah. Much smaller tank farm. They don't have the benefit of having that big tank farm in the back.
Oh, yeah, I didn't think of that, but you're right. 2 different tank farms, and the suborbital side does not have anywhere near the same upgrades or capabilities as the suborbital side. Neat. Princess Leia becoming a pad rat member. Thank you, Princess Leia. And there you can see the frost beginning to grow on the LOX tank.
Oh, and good
exactly
morning.
What we want to see today. And we'll keep an eye as that frost ring rises. It's anyone's guess as to how much they will load today. It could be a standard static fire type load where they only load the bare minimum, or it could be something else. Who knows? Eric, thank you for the support. They say listening to y'all as a podcast today. We appreciate you. Revhead gifting a Red Team membership. We appreciate you as well. Matthew Dahl is saying, can we start calling Jack Star Guy? My girlfriend overheard me listening to Starbase Update this morning and said, oh, it's Star Guy again. I think it should stick. You know what? I'm not opposed to it. Better than the field. Blushy Boy, thanks for gifting a Red Team membership. D.A. Swanson also gifting a Red Team membership.
Look
if
at
you
this.
Gifted a membership. Be sure you thank the person that gifted it. And if you know what, if you can't support us monetarily, don't worry about it because that's what everyone else is doing and supporting the channel so that our feeds can go out live around the world free of charge, and y'all are the best for it. So don't fret if you can't contribute monetarily. Just like hit the like button, tell your friends about us, watch the video. We appreciate you just the same. Astro95 Media is saying Flight 3 was incredible. Great to meet the NSF team. Hope to be back for Flight 4. Side note, Burgonator is what you get when you put me and Chris together. Okay.
Let's see.
Jason Boyles, thank you for the support. They say, where are Ship 29's Starlink antennas? They seem to be in different positions versus 28.
They're not installed.
Alex.
They're not on the vehicle.
Right, so yet another thing that needs to happen before Flight 4 is 29 needs to get its Starlink antennas. Alex, do you think...
I have a fun fact. Ship 28 also didn't have all of its Starlink antennas when it static fired. It only had 3 of them instead of all 4.
So it's almost guaranteed that after this test or tests, whatever they end up doing with 29 here at the launch site, it will be rolled back to the production site. But do not fret, that will be for the final additions needed for launch.
And also probably for, getting all of the changes that they have identified from Flight 3. If you think about it, this is smart because they get to test the engines while they're still looking at the data from Flight 3, right? And then if they need any more testing afterwards, okay, sure, but that's going to be already with all of the investigation done and all of these testing done already. That's why we're expecting them to also roll Booster 11 shortly, like in the next few weeks, and do the static fire there. Because I see a lot of people, properly concerned, like it's obviously, oh, you really need to change the vehicles, right? Because they failed on the last flight. They had those issues and whatever, right? They had issues essentially, and you need to change that. But it also doesn't make sense to just wait around, not doing anything, until all of the data reviews are complete, because otherwise that's wasted time. If you think about it, testing the engines is just put it in there, test the engines, and if you need to do any more testing later, okay, but at least like you got a lot of things already tested, so it makes sense.
Yeah, all in service of increasing the cadence of launches this year. I don't think SpaceX is going to hit 6 or 9, but if they get 2 or 3 or 4 more in before the end of the year, I think that's a huge, huge success.
Why is the Boeing CEO trendy?
Chip Franklin, thanks for gifting a Red Team membership. Mr. One Wolf, also gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Y'all are coming out with a load of support today, so thank you for that. RC Horseman, speaking of a load of support. Wow, I'm surprised nobody pinged me about this in the back channel. RC Horseman coming through with a $250 tip. Thank you so much, RC. They say been absent a while due to medical issues, but want to support NSF. Thanks so much for all you do. Well, buddy, thank you for all of your insane and continued support throughout the years. We hope you are feeling better and you have your medical issues behind you. From the entire NSF team, seriously, thank you for all your support, and we hope you're doing better, buddy. Why can't I show it on screen, though? Show it on screen. There we go. It's working. Excellent. Apocalypse Cow gifting 5 Red Team memberships. RC Horseman also gifting 5 Red Team memberships. RC Horseman, you're just the best. Thank you. Ninja Decimator, pew pew pew, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. You have to say their name like that, otherwise you get in trouble. Let's see. Josh T becoming a Pad Rat member, and Coco Cats gifting a Red Team membership. You guys are amazing. Thank you. All right, questions.
I've got a
Matrix
question.
is asking, do we think we'll try... Oh, what's the question, Chris? Go.
A lot of people are asking in chat, and I think it's probably good that now we're into popular. Alex, what do you reckon this means as timelines? People can plan their days accordingly. The potential earliest time they can fire up the engines.
Yeah. So
Good call,
based
Chris.
on the previous test, if it follows the same sort of times, right? I'll talk about the other part later, but essentially 1:10 p.m. Central. That will be if it follows the same sort of patterns. And the way to know if it follows the same patterns will be once the engine chill pipes come up. That is usually, I have to look it up, but that will be another indicator. So if it happens at the time expected, then that will be an indicator for eventually the test happening at 1:10 p.m. But yeah, I have to look it up. I have to dig up that data. I'll do that while you two talk.
Dig up the data as the frost line on Ship 29 rapidly rising here.
Ship 29.
So yes, Chris, Matrix is asking, do we
Infinite
think
learner.
they'll try and catch any of the version 1 Starships, or will they wait until they have version 2 flying?
I don't know if it's about the version that denotes when they'll attempt it. I think what they definitely need first of all is for the boosters to come down to a pinpoint landing. Like we saw with the Falcon boosters in the early days, they went for soft splashdowns. And it wasn't just the velocity they were trying to get right, but also the accuracy. So that's something where they'll learn their
velocity
trade
and the
in bringing the
accuracy.
big boosters back down, which they've still got lessons to learn, as we saw with booster 10's return. Once they get the soft splashdown and they've got a pinpoint, they'll have the confidence in their capability to bring it back to the launch site without
We should
risking
probably clean
flying
this.
into the tower, which would not be good. And then they can try and attempt to get a catch there. Now, then they go for Starship. I think Starship will be second in the attempts to catch them. I don't know if we'll naturally be on to the next version of Starship by then. I don't think that is dependent on the version. I think they need to get it right first with these upcoming missions where they get the confidence to go for the catch attempts, and then it'll basically be the next vehicle along.
It's very random.
Yeah, that makes sense. To me, it does kind of make sense if they end up having to go for version 2 of Starship. It's actually one of the things we talked about in SBU this week, the video that we released this morning, in that the way the chopsticks attach to the ship currently, they need to sort of have time in order to connect to the ship. And so any kind of catch mechanism on the ship is going to need to look different than the current chopstick attachment points. So some sort of fold out pins, like the same sort of pins we see on the booster, but on the ship instead, so they can stow for re-entry and fold out for landing, I think would be necessary. Now, does that require a full new version of ship, or can they do a modification on a version 1 ship? I don't know, but if you told me they're not going to catch until version 2 of the ship, I would believe you. At the same time, if you told me they are going to try and catch a version 1 ship, I would also believe that. You know, SpaceX is not wasting any time here in Starbase. Good question from Matrix. Ross is asking, have we spotted any visual differences between Ship 28 and Ship 29 yet to potentially address roll control during Flight 3? I have not. I could be wrong. That's more of an Alex question, and Alex is digging through data, but I suspect the answer from him would be not anything
Early.
major yet, as SpaceX is still reviewing their data.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you,
Ship
Alex.
29 is essentially. There are subtle differences, obviously, like any vehicle, but it's more or less about the same as Ship 28, and it's been what, like 11 days since the launch, right? So that's not enough time to really do much. And this vehicle has been there for like 3 days already, so it's been less than that in terms of the time that they could have done any sort of change to the vehicle. And yeah, you know, they're gonna do this testing first, and then they'll modify the vehicle with whatever measures they think it needs to be. By the way, I found the sort of indicator time. I don't know what to say, but it will essentially be like 30 minutes before the test. That's when the engine chill pipes start getting, you know, active.
Good and frosty.
So if we're looking at 1:10 p.m., essentially 1 hour from now, then half an hour from now should be when those engine chill pipes should be starting to get frosty too.
All right, well, we'll keep our eye on the base of the vehicle for those engine chill pipes, especially as we get closer and closer to our suspected, guessed, non-official, but based on data and not just complete and utter speculation time.
Yeah.
Robert Vansel, thank you for the support. They say, what is... they're describing how to make tea.
It's all right. I've already explained.
I don't think the Burgonator approves because they're involving sugar and coldness, I think. So, John Depker, thank you for the 5 Red Team memberships. The Nerdy One also gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Ryan also gifting 5 Red Team memberships. You guys are the best today. Thank you for that. A lot of things we want to do and improve, as usual, in between Starship flights. So the support really means the world. Lost in Space, thank you for the support. They say, Arthur Dent would concur about tea. Indeed. I think Alex gets the reference, but we don't have Adrian on right now, so we don't have to shame Adrian, or rather be happy that we get to show Adrian a delightful thing. But Chris, I know you get it.
Yeah, don't forget your towel.
Have you ever had the urge? Oh, we got some venting from the ship there. From the LOX tank, looks like.
Yeah, it's been venting for a little while. That's normal because they still, you know, they're loading the liquid oxygen into the tank, so it regularly vents. Just do that when they're happy.
Chris, have you ever had the urge to go down? Yes, only when they're happy. Chris, have you ever had the urge to go down to your local pub in the middle of the day and consume many pints of beer because you think the world's ending?
That's a good excuse, but no. The fun thing is, I have recited many Vogel and poetry, though, so I'm going to that. We could get on a rabbit hole with this film. No, we won't do it.
You would recite Vogon poetry. It's very on brand.
Yeah.
Hop Hayes is asking, does 29 have the payload bay? Cheers from Indianapolis. Yes, it does have a payload bay. And it is not welded shut. And that said, again, from this morning's Starbase update, with some more venting from 29 there as it continues to be happy. I feel like I'm just spoiling Starbase update for everybody, but no, there's actually a lot of information in there. So don't hesitate to go watch that after this. Add it to your watch later playlist. But yes, 29 has a payload bay, and it will not be used to deploy satellites on Flight 4 per SpaceX CEO Gwen Shotwell. So yes, it has a payload bay. I suspect we'll see them test the door again on Flight 4, but do not expect Starlinks on Flight 4 per a statement from Gwen Shotwell. Simon S. is asking, have they ever used the header tanks on the orbital test flights? I mean, they load them with propellant just the same as the rest of the tanks. And I believe, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, the propellant transfer test that was conducted on Flight 3 involved those header tanks, right? Or at least one of them.
Yeah, at the very least, one of them. We don't know, what else was transferred. The goal was 10 tons of liquid oxygen being transferred from the header tank down to the main tank. We don't really know the specifics, only that they conducted a test. So, but that's essentially what it was planned to be.
Tests and tests.
Tolkien, well muted. Jack, go for the unmute button.
Sorry, I keep trying to aggressively mute because the dog is chewing on her squeaky toy. So I apologize for the constant muting, but I don't think anyone wants to hear squeak, squeak, squeak the whole test.
Oh
if it serves as feedback, I haven't heard the squeaky sounds for a while, so I think you're safe.
Okay, good. Calm of Autumn is asking, how many ships and boosters do they already have lined up for upcoming orbital flights? Well, 29 is going to be paired with 11. 11 is fully stacked and should have its engines by now, and as soon as the orbital launch mount is ready, it should be rolled back to the launch site rolled out to the launch site for that engine testing. So 29 and 11, there's one pair. Then there is 30 and 12. Alex, do we know anything about the status of 12? I think it's already done cryo at Massey's, right?
Boy, I'm trying to think about that because it's been a while. It's been a while since the last booster actually went out there because
I remember 12 had the cryo. Yeah, 12 in the cryo. I'm going to cheat and go on Ring Watchers.
Nope, not this one.
Give them a shout out
Let's see.
because they have
this
the
one.
tracking of what goes on here. So 12 is cryo. Booster 13's built. They're building Booster 14 sections. They've got sections for 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah.
How bonkers is that?
It's insane. It's kabonk bonk, I would even say.
What I was actually gonna go through here is that since they're building the ship stand there for static fires, ever since they've started with that, they have not carried out any cryo tests there. So right now, Booster 12 got cryo, but Booster 13 didn't, and I believe Ship 32 might not have gotten that either. So there's like a few ships and boosters that are out there at the production site, built, maybe not completely built entirely, because there's a lot of little things that go on.
Told you.
But they have not been able to do the whole cryogenic testing because the whole thing's upside down with all of that construction going on, right? So.
Oh wow.
Right. So a plethora of vehicles lining up for the upcoming flight tests. It remains to be seen if SpaceX will actually fly out its remaining stock of version 1 ships and boosters, or if at some point they'll get enough data from a flight test and then scrap the remainders. If Flight 4 goes completely well, perfectly, do they need to fly any of the current version anymore? I mean, I would hope so, because of course more data, more better, but we'll have to see. Suthi is asking, what is the expected timeline for Flight 4? I'm going to say booster to the pad by the end of...
I'm not
going to say end of March. That seems too soon. I'm going to say booster to the pad first half of April. I'm going to say full stack end of April. And I'm going to say launch in May. And that hopefully is not wildly optimistic. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I always say when people ask me about timelines is I like to see the booster complete its static fire test, and then we get an idea of where we are in the processing flow towards launch. Also, I think today is important because once they get shipped through, it's potentially this week finished. Again, going back to the SpaceX tweet, which was our post, was where they said static fires, as you correctly pointed out. The suggestion is they may do the full validation firing and then do a deorbit firing, like did with Ship 26. So it's a case of once that's complete, that's the ship ready. And then we're just all eyes on the orbital launch mount. ready for them to cater to taking the booster on there and then doing the static fire test, then we can just basically got the final milestones of stacking and doing the wet dress rehearsal. So it's not that far away. I think if anything's holding it back on a timeline, it'll be whatever repairs they have to do to help with the launch mount. But as you've got some amazing photographs, Jack, of the back end, the guts of the booster quick disconnect. It did look quite bleh, but that's a technical term, by the way. At the same time, this is SpaceX. They can do things in no time, and we've seen how fast they can repair things like the booster quick disconnect and the ship quick disconnect, which I can't say two in a row without my teeth falling out, because it's a booster here we go. Booster quick disconnect is for the booster fueling, whereas a ship quick disconnect is for the ship fueling. So those two things need to be ready to go before they can even think about doing a stack wet dress rehearsal. Never mind a booster quick disconnect for the static fire test of Booster 11. So again, long-winded, but I think I'll get a lot more confidence in potentially a May launch, which it may be June by the time they get everything, all the dots and everything completed with the paperwork side of things. But I think we're closer when we get the static fire test for the booster.
Yeah, I agree. Alex, any thoughts?
I do think that we're going to get those static fire tests done in April. And essentially both vehicles will be tested in April. And then they're going to go through maybe a month period of, modifications and preparations for flight. We'll see.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, good question. Let's keep rolling on here as we watch this frost line rise. It's been hot out in Starbase the last couple of days, and the condensation coming off of this frost line, it was just getting obliterated by the daytime heat. It kind of looks cool. Let's see. Ross is asking, do you think the FAA can keep up with SpaceX ambitions with the launch cadence?
Well, as long as everything goes well, it should.
Yeah, I don't necessarily even think it's the FAA keeping up at this point. Remember, the mishap investigations that occur after a flight where things do not go perfectly nominally are led by SpaceX in partnership with the FAA. So I think for the most part, as fast as SpaceX can go, the FAA will support. Now, there were, what was it, the congressional hearings where essentially it was said that the FAA needs more resources in order to successfully, I guess I should say, accommodate SpaceX and also all of the other new space players that are coming online. So hopefully the FAA gets the resources it needs, and hopefully it's not a bottleneck. That's my thinking.
I will say, look at Falcon 9. It's basically flying 3 times a week. The FAA handles that, right? But the only difference with the Starship is that it's not that it's bigger or whatever. It's that it's a development program, right? It's not an operational vehicle. So every time you fly, Starship has an issue, and then a mishap investigation happens. Whereas Falcon 9, it flies perfectly on the dot every single time. Like, I don't even remember the last time they had, because sure, they have scrubs, they have, weather issues and whatnot, but that's prior to launch, right? That can happen with every launch. But after launch, I don't remember the last time we had like a little oopsie even with a Falcon 9, either the booster or the second stage. Obviously, with the booster, we had after it has already landed, we have seen B-10 58, it fell off from the drone ship and everything. Those things do happen, but that doesn't incur in any sort of mishap investigation or anything like it. So that's sort of the thing here. Once the Starship gets to a point where every single mission nails it and they don't have any sort of mishap investigation or anything, then I'm mostly sure that they're going to be able to keep up. The problem will be even further beyond that, right? It's like, what else when they're launching 3 times a day instead of 3 times a week. That's the big, the big variable here and the big sort of question. But the exciting thing is we're gonna figure that out because it's gonna happen.
I can't wait. I cannot wait. I'm so excited to see this vehicle mature into a fully operational system. I'm just so excited. Let's see. The nuclear jellyfish, interesting name. They say, has any Booster 11 testing happened yet? Might we see it for a static fire soon? Yeah, we talked about that a few minutes ago. Booster 11 has been cryo-proofed already. It should have its engines installed, and we're expecting it at the orbital launch site essentially as soon as the OLM and associated GSE is ready to receive it. I mean, there is still some refurb work that needs to be done between flights. As Chris was mentioning, the booster QD hoses that we saw removed in the last week also talked about in Starbase update. So yeah, definitely some work to be done on the pad still before Booster 11 can roll out, but essentially as soon as it's ready to go, Booster 11 should be ready and waiting. Mark Mons is saying, I recall a reported anecdote a few years ago of Elon addressing a group of space scientists that Starship could someday enable 100 tons to the surface of Europa. The response was stunned silence. You gotta love SpaceX and Elon for stuff like that because it's, on the one hand, absolutely bonkers, and on the other hand, I mean, if you're doubting SpaceX, you're putting your cards. I'm mixing metaphors. If you're doubting SpaceX, you're betting on the wrong horse. There we go. I said horse, so Chris will be happy.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
The fun thing about Europa, we could do some movie references again there, couldn't we? Attempt no landing there. This is the thing about Starship. People rightly say this vehicle is a moon lander. It's for Artemis. It's going to be for the moon. But also, they know that Elon's long-term plan has always been about making life multiplanetary, which involves a self-sustaining city on Mars, and the amount of upmass that requires a vehicle like this that's capable of launching a huge amount in staging and then being sent via refilling to Mars and then placed on the service, and then for it to eventually be able to cater for itself without need for resupply. It's an incredible long-term plan, but also we go back to the earlier briefings that it did show renders of Starship on planets further away. There's plenty of staging post ideas there. There's plenty of long-term plans where it could be the Solar System Explorer vehicle. And I love bringing it up, but point to point, I will die on that hill. I think point to point, if the regulatory approval comes through for at least one single route to prove the technology out, like Concorde, the London to New York route, I do think that could be a massive thing that could end up funding towards these long-term goals. But the vehicle is so capable of so many different things. I always like to use the phrase, it's what everything shuttle wanted to be, but even the space shuttle could never even think about some of the things Starship can do. It was stuck in low Earth orbit. There was no way around it. The For All Mankind episodes where we saw the space shuttle going to the moon was not a thing.
No spoilers.
It's okay. That was about 2 series ago. If people aren't caught up that far, that's not a spoiler. That's ages ago.
All right, but, fine.
There's no way really we can compare in that way. The only reference we can make with the space shuttle was that it was meant to be rapidly reusable. That was the whole goal of the space shuttle. It never achieved it. Whereas this vehicle has every chance of achieving that. So yeah, I think it's got every possibility of being the primary vehicle for deep space exploration, not just the moon and Mars, but also the big goals of planets further afield, which in our solar system, which is incredibly exciting.
It really is, and exciting is the best word for it. And once again, if you're doubting SpaceX, you're betting on the wrong horse, because if you've been around for long enough, you remember when people were saying, oh, they could never land a first stage booster. And even if they could, it wouldn't be economically viable. And even if they could, they wouldn't be able to reuse it. So many things over the years SpaceX has just clowned on all doubters. So I try my best to give them the benefit of the doubt, even when sort of bold statements are made. Steve Humphrey, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Jay Heath, gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Thank you for that. Matthew A0272, thank you for the 5 curly L's. They say, when SpaceX have the super heavy booster down pat, could they swap from steel to carbon composites for a lighter weight? What you're asking is, when they have it down pat, would they change everything completely and start from scratch? And, you know, never say never, but I would be shocked. Alex, do you think they're going to switch back to carbon?
I mean, I don't really see that happening. They have already nailed down building stainless steel vehicles already. I don't really see the motivation to switch to carbon fiber now. I don't really see it. Not like it wouldn't happen ever. Like, I'm not saying, oh, it will absolutely not happen. But I just, I don't see them, in a whim saying, hey, let's change back to carbon fiber. Why not?
Right. Hey, remember that thing we abandoned because all of these reasons? Let's go back to that. But,
Yeah.
you never know. Maybe they're working on carbon fiber tanks in the background still, and they'll figure something out. Even just like an expendable Starship that's like super extra light so it can loft an insane payload. And then they chuck away everything else so they don't have to worry about a heat shield and I don't know, some kind of, I am 100% here for some kind of expendable Starship. I know the whole point of Starship is full reusability, but at the same time, the super heavy booster is so insane and capable. It's like, yeah, man, let's just start throwing stuff into orbit with this thing. Build some. You've got a nice big factory you're building. You should be able to crank some super heavies out, right? Thanos is asking, I will be visiting the US in May. Any chance you have a viewing ellipse ready? Sorry, my brain is on the eclipse that's coming up next month. For Starship test flights, so I can make some basic arrangements. I mean, the ellipse would be, at this point, I think, May. And the center of the ellipse would be centered on the center of the month of May. And as always with Starship and with this program, it's a milestone-based process. And so for all of the dates to hold, which we don't have a firm date yet, but we have some statements and things we can extrapolate from, like the FCC request that SpaceX made for Flight 4 and comments from Gwen and Elon. So I think mid-May is the center of the ellipse. The ellipse extends to either side of the month. And to get there, sort of everything needs to go smoothly and right. Meaning today we need to get a static fire with Ship 29, and SpaceX then needs to either conduct a second static fire doing that simulated in-space burn or whatever else they need to do with it, and then roll it back to the launch site and continue working on this vehicle, add the Starlink antennas, add whatever modifications they need to correct the roll control issue, finish off the heat shield, all that stuff. But provided everything goes right, I think mid-May is a pretty good bet. Chris, would you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think also, providing again they have the success that the water deluge system has brought to the pad, there's an every chance that we could even look at IFT5. If they launch cleanly and the pad is in good condition, we may see Booster 12 and Ship 30 beating the timeline we're seeing right now. So if you've been an avid Starbase follower, as most of you have been for such a long time now, where there is kind of gaps of months between flights, that might be going away this year. We might be seeing a continued amount of events going on, because it's not just the launches, it's all the testing in between. So we're going to see quite a lot of activity. There won't be a dull week at Starbase, put it that way.
Right. I think it's going to shape up to be a very exciting year in Starbase. I mean, and it's already been a pretty darn great one. I'm sorry, Chris, did you say Starbase Watcher? Or Starbase Viewer? No, it's Tank Watcher. Come on.
That's true, yeah. It's back to the old days there, isn't it? I'm trying to lose my old ways. But it's It has been tank watching. I remember the test tanks. We used to be getting excited about test tanks going pop. It doesn't seem that long ago, but it has been a massive progression curve. Let's remember. I think you yourself, I'm sure, remembers Hopper and the first launch of Hopper. The water towers can fly with Tim next year. So it doesn't seem that long ago. I don't know, maybe it's my age or whatever, but it doesn't seem that long ago. And now they're launching these massive, massive rockets, the world's most powerful and biggest rocket ever built by humanity. It's just crazy to think the progression curve, where they may be in 5 years' time. That'll be interesting.
I cannot wait. I'm so happy that this program is progressing so rapidly. I don't have to say it, but I will say it. You know, the nature of the human lifespan. We want to see the cool stuff happen while we are still on this planet. So thank goodness it's moving so fast. Moldy Space Industries, we love you, buddy. They say thank you, or no, they don't say that. I say thank you for gifting one Red Team membership. Sorry, my brain got all discombobulated thinking about how much I love Moldy. Charles, thank you for gifting 10 Red Team memberships. Extremely generous of you. Once again, y'all, if you're getting memberships from people in chat, be sure to thank them. If you don't know how to get a membership, it's sort of based on engagement in the chat, and also I think it's a setting that you have to turn on. Is that right, Chris? Am I making that up, or is that true?
No, that's true. There's a setting where you can accept gifts. I don't think it's default on, so you need to check your settings in case it's not default on. And that means you're in the queue. You're in the potential room where you may get picked out by YouTube saying you have been chosen, and you gain the membership. And also, you can't just turn up and I've noticed most of the time when there's gifted membership, it's given to people who I've seen around. So activity on the streams, liking videos, I'm sure all that plays into it. YouTube's a mysterious machine that we don't really know about, as we've found out many a time. But that is obviously the two obvious things to do, is make sure the settings are to accept gift and to be active around and just basically be part of the community. We've got an amazing community here. As you can see, I've never been on a stream where there's so many gifted memberships, even on much, much bigger channels on different subject matters. I've never seen it this active. So we have an amazing community here helping each other out as well.
We truly do. Y'all out there in viewerland are the absolute best, and we appreciate you so much. And I'm just gonna say it again. Even if you don't contribute to what we do monetarily, if you can, or you don't want to, that's fine. You know what? Turn on gifted memberships. Maybe you'll get gifted a membership because our community is just that awesome. And we appreciate all of our viewers tuning in, hanging out in chat, doing what you do, and adding to our coverage. We appreciate you no matter what. Ninja Decimator, thank you for gifting the $10 there. They say world-ending beer fund for Chris B. I think you might need more than $10 for that.
Yeah. Although it probably work. I could walk into a Yorkshire pub and say, I'm just world-ending beer fund. I'm spending it. They'll go, oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Alex, how close are we to expected engine chill visibility here based on our notional, speculative, but based on data timeline?
In about 3 minutes or so, that should be when we should see those engine chill pipes start to vent.
So right around 12:40 local?
Yep. I can refine
Excellent.
that later.
All right, well.
But that's more or less like 3 minutes plus minus 1 minute.
Okie doke. We'll keep our eyes on the base of the vehicle for that next milestone in today's testing. James Holbrook, thank you for upgrading to Launch Director. That is outstanding. Thank you so much. You get your name at the end of NASA Spaceflight Live episodes, in addition to all of the other perks, the members multi-view. So if you don't want to listen to us flapping our gums, mostly me, I guess, then you can go to the members multi-view. And guess what? It's all just ambient audio. Or if you also, maybe you do like hearing us flap our gums, you can watch this and the members multi-view and see all of the camera angles. A bunch of cool perks for our members. So we hope you enjoy them, and thank you for upgrading to Launch Director there. Let's see. Bob, thank you for the store purchases. They say thanks for all the excellent coverage, guys. Thank you, Bob. Bideford, thank you for the super chat and for just being awesome. They say, looking forward to static fire while showing a house. Go SpaceX. If you're showing a house right now, you should just put SBL on all of the TVs in the house. And if the prospective buyers are asking about it, then you get to have a cool conversation about rockets. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing. Thank you for the support. They say, after watching the Starlink launch that got delayed, I'm officially requesting a Starbase Live with lo-fi option. Maybe even Tim Dodd's music. That would be cool. I'd be down. Maybe we should do like a members multi-view, like music, a members multi-view with music or something like that. I don't know. I'm a big fan of lo-fi rockets you can chill and study to or whatever. All right, well, we're watching 29, hoping we see some engine chill the next minute or two or three. Kevin Weichard is asking, what's your best guess as to how many Starlink satellites will fit in a full stack? Do you think they're volume constrained or mass constrained? My gut says volume, but that said, a 9-meter payload bay is utterly huge.
It's probably going to be volume constrained. It's not about the sort of diameter. It's more about the how tall it is, the whole stack of satellites. And like even the current pest dispenser is not tall enough to fit as many satellites as you will need to essentially get anywhere close to 100 tons. Like not even close. You can probably fit enough that it's like 70, 80 tons. Like it's gonna be a lot of mass, right? But it's not gonna be even close to 100. It's gonna be less. So you will not even get to the lowest sort of estimate of payload performance of Starship.
Man, it's hard to wrap your head around. Starship is such a beast. I love it. Chris is asking, do you guys plan on keeping up with flight patches as SpaceX increases the launch cadence? I feel like this is a question we should have Adrian here for, but speaking completely unofficially, just in terms of my own wants and whims, yes.
I can
But
also confirm
stay
that
tuned.
we are looking at the next patch soon. Soon. Copyright soon. By the way, a programming note. Someone thinks I'm from Hull. I'm from York. Thank you.
Yeah, you're certainly not from Leeds.
No. Sophistication. Don't tell me about sophistication. I've been to Leeds.
Let's see. Pratama is asking, do you think in the future SpaceX might start to decrease the tests per pair of ship and booster before flight? Well, wait a second. Alex, what are we looking at?
There we go. That's the engine chill. It has already started. Okay, I'll put it in my thingy, my spreadsheet.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mean spreadsheet, I hope.
Yeah, because I couldn't come up
yes.
with a name. Yeah.
So what do we see next after engine chill? Is it basically the next thing is static fire?
Yeah. Right now, obviously, it looks like it is tracking to about 1:10 p.m. Central, with a couple of minutes, left or right of that. Probably more to the right, to be fair. Like it might be 1:11, 1:12 p.m. But yeah, around that time, essentially, that's when we expect that test to happen. In the meantime, the vehicle keeps being filled up, and so what we expect probably in the next sort of half an hour that we have until that test, that static fire test, what we're probably gonna see is venting from the header tanks of the ship, because they also load the header tanks. So as soon as they start to get loaded, the vents just start coming off from those tanks, and it's gonna be very, very interesting.
Excellent. Well, SpaceX wasting no time this morning, I guess afternoon now, getting into testing with 29. Hooray. Speaking of testing, this is a good question from Pradima. They say, do we think they're going to decrease the number of tests per pair, ship and booster, going forward? I think that's not impossible. In fact, they kind of did the same thing with Falcon 9, right?
Well, yes and no. When you build a new vehicle, you want to know if it's gonna be holding up the flight environment, right? So you do cryo tests, you do static fire acceptance testing. So this kind of testing that we see today, it's probably not gonna go away. What it's gonna go away is once these vehicles come back from space, either the booster or the ship, then we're probably gonna at first they're probably gonna be doing like static fires and retesting them again, and then they'll stop that. Essentially, that's what they did with Falcon 9 boosters. They are manufactured at Hawthorne. They are tested at McGregor. They do always a cryoproof test of sorts. Then they do the acceptance test, and after that, they are sent to the launch site either to Vandenberg or to Florida, and then they are flown. It gets back down to Earth. It's recovered, used again, and when it is time to use it again, they don't do the static fire test again. Like they just use it and keep using it and refurbish them. But the first time around, you don't have previous experience on whether the vehicle will actually do anything right correctly. And so that's when you do this acceptance testing, as you will. And so this kind of testing that we see on Ship 29, that's the sort of testing that we're seeing. Once they start coming back with the ship and the booster back down to recover, we'll see what they do. But I eventually, I think eventually that's going to be the same thing with as we see with Falcon 9.
Yeah, I mean, 5 to 10 years from now, Starship has 100+ flights successfully under its belt. I could definitely see them getting into a situation where they can reduce the number of tests, once it's just a proven thing. Let's see, Finder Enlil, thank you for the support. They say starships docked together like 8 would be better for Callisto, Europa, Ganymede, and Io inside Jupiter's radiation belts, but land a base, yeah. I'm here for it. Let's put a base on every moon. Mr. Rich Texas, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Jeff Rowe gifting a Red Team membership as well. Oh god, Max E, is that our own Max E? They say if ship is eventually going to be extended in length, does that make this variant stubby? No, absolutely not. Some more venting from 29.
I will add a programming note, by the way, while we're here. A lot of people in chat asking about the TPS. Yes, they don't repair the final parts of the TPS until they are ready to get towards launch, as we saw with previous floods. But also, if towels do fall off during a static fire test, don't panic. It's under actually more stress because it's bolted down to the test stand, and that induces more vibrations when they static fire the engines through the vehicle, and that's where you get some towels popping off, compared to a launch where it's released and just going uphill. So don't be too perturbed if you start seeing towels falling off. That's kind of what usually happens, and then they will complete the TPS with the tiles ahead of launch. And we saw during the third flight how well the TPS performed. It looked great ahead of the re-entry phase. So I think they're learning more and more as they go with the TPS and getting a lot of data from it.
Yeah, and Chris, right now I'm re-listening to Into the Black. I just before that listened to Bold Day Rise, which are both really good shuttle books. And the TPS on the shuttle was like the big question all the way up to and through launch. I mean, they were so worried about it, they imaged the dang thing with a spy satellite and went through that whole rigmarole super clandestinely to make sure that the bottom of the heat shield was okay. Like, adhering tiles to something and then using them as your heat shield is not trivial. And so far, I think they're doing a pretty darn good job at it.
Yeah. Remember, there's more risks to TPS than launch, and re-entry is also the third biggest risk to a flight. which was known during the space shuttle, the third biggest risk to losing the vehicle was MMOD, which is the micrometeorites, the debris that impacts orbital velocities. The space station also is very much catered towards protecting itself from MMOD, as we've seen with holes being punched in solar arrays and things like that. It's something where the heat shield is so important to be kept as intact as possible, but they can lose tiles, as Space Shuttle did, and re-enter fine. It's where you lose the tiles. So this data they got, even from the previous flight, will be helping them understand how the heating, the friction, the plasma affects the TPS, even when they lost the vehicle. They'll get data down on that and they'll get to learn from it. So there's a lot of things they'll be learning at this phase of testing before they feel they've got the confidence in saying, everything's working fine, this is great, we know what we're doing, we know where we don't lose tiles, we know we can lose tiles, and they'll progress forward with that.
Indeed. Peter C is asking, does anyone here actually miss B4? I do not. But thank you, B4, for your contributions to the Starship program. Chris, do you miss B4, or are you not that sentimental a person?
Not really, no. I think we've moved on. I think if it'd been sooner than earlier, I should say, then probably. But I think we can get attached to vehicles, but without being too silly. That, oh no, they're cutting it in half. I'm so sad. This is terrible. I think there's much worse things going on in the world right now than cutting boosters in half. So no, not really.
I mean, I think I'll always be mad about SN15, but, you know, what can you do? Booster forts, like, get it out of here. We need the space. New boosters, let's go. We're going to the moon. Get in, loser, we're going to the moon. Sephora Serpantis Russ, thank you for gifting 5 Red Team memberships. Elliot Slater, thank you for the support. They say, remembering back in the day of overheating camera and the battery swaps with Mary. Good times. Good times indeed. Mary got so fast at those battery swaps.
Yeah.
It was like, battery swap. Okay, it's done. We were like, what? Really? Did you?
Yeah, there were like Formula One pit stops in the end. They were like, basically, okay, we're going to take, Mary's going to do a battery swap, and then Mary's like, ready? Like, what? Really? That's 4.3 seconds. How did you do that? I always think about that when Rocket Lab do their electron launch to do the hot swaps to the batteries. I keep thinking of Mary doing the battery swaps with the cameras.
We're a go for battery hot swap. SN15, the best ship ever. Thank you for the support. They say, how will other satellites deploy out of the PEZ? I think the answer is they'll either be flat packed like Starlink, or they will need a different door design. So ultimately, different door design. What do we think they're going to do for the door? Like I mean, it has to be shuttle style, like a clamshell, right, Chris?
Yeah, we're thinking, wasn't it called Chomper? Where we saw some renders from SpaceX.
Yeah, okay, there's also the Chomper style.
Yeah, I think that kind of works for me. That seems something that would work quite well. The complexity of the space shuttle payload bay doors is quite funny because the motors that open the bay doors could not open the doors on Earth. They were not strong enough to open up on Earth. They only worked in space with the motors on board the actual space shuttle, and sometimes they wouldn't close properly, and you had to close the payload base doors securely for re-entry. So there was lots of things. You'll see space shuttle photographs in the early days where they rolled them out with these big yellow bars on top. That was the bars they used to pull the payload bay doors open on Earth. That's how they could get them open. But on space, they had to be lightweight. Everything was lightweight. Everything was about weight saving for the space shuttle. So the motors were only powerful enough to close them in space, and they had problems. So I don't want them to go too space shuttle-y because I know the problems I had with it. The Chomper design looked pretty simple, and I liked that because it served a purpose.
Can't wait to see it. I just can't wait.
Sorry, Jack. It came to me as I was stopping talking, so it's my fault there. But what happened back in the early days of the renders, we did see a Starlink deploy via the Chompers. They had all the Starlinks stacked up in the payload bay, and they opened the Chomper and then pushed them out, like you see with a deployment from a Falcon 9 second stage. So they have thought about doing Starlink deploys other than the PEZ dispenser via the Chomper system. So it's something they've thought about at least. So that might be a way forward if they decide to do a different thing than the PEZ system.
Interesting. Alex, do we have any data updates tracking the timeline when we expect we might see a static fire?
Well, so far it is essentially tracking about the same time as I mentioned before. It might be a little bit more to the right, 1:12 p.m. Central, but that's like within the sort of error bars, sort of so to speak, right? It's like usually when you take into account this sort of like for example, one of the indicators is when the frost line appears, and that sometimes is tricky to see because maybe one of the cameras that was looking at the frost line was super far away, and so it was a bit tricky, and therefore you couldn't see the frost until it was a little bit more thick, and so it's a bit of a like it's still good at least within 5 minutes. Let's put it that way. Like it could be 1:05 or 1:15, and then in the middle you have 1:10. So that's sort of the range
Got it.
of possibilities. So we could be within 10 minutes, within 15 minutes, within 20 minutes, but we're getting there.
All right. I wonder if we'll get a siren. The old 10-minute siren. Speaking of the old days. LSR, what's up? Thank you for the support. They say, amazing how far SpaceX has come since that first Falcon 1 launch 18 years ago today. Was that today?
Yep,
Wow.
that one that had the pad fallback. Fortunately, flight one of Starship was not the same. It went away a little bit further.
Yeah, that would not have been great. Thomas Ryman, thank you for the support. They say, got my re-entry club hoodie and now waiting to receive my third times the charm t-shirt today. Great quality clothing, great quality channel. Let's go. Aw, thanks, bud. We're glad you like them. Sanity Bites, thank you for the 40 pounds. They say super leads united. I think Chris might fire me now.
I know. I actually, I replied to him as soon as I saw it in chat. It's a football thing. Leeds as a city is okay. It's fine, but yeah, I'm a York supporter because I'm from York, and while we're not anything close to the level of Leeds United, we always used to see a bus go from York to go and support Leeds, and I was like, no, you support your hometown club. So we don't like Leeds because of that, and that's why we call them. No, anyway, thank you for your support, very much appreciated. Let's not ruin support by bringing football rivalry into this, or soccer as the Americans call it. But thank you very much for your support, Sanity Bites. Yeah, it looks like you're getting promoted to the Premier League, so yeah, happy days for you. Yeah, well done.
I understood some of the words you just said. I know soccer and Leeds. Jerwad, thank you so much for the gifting of 10 Red Team memberships. Always cool to see your name pop up. So potentially under 10 minutes to static fire for what will be the Starship used on Flight 4, which just a short period of time after the last launch. I mean, this testing cadence, I almost mixed up the words there. This testing cadence is absurd.
I have a question for you.
Go.
What do you think they'll do on Flight 4? Is it going to be the same as Flight 3? Are they going to change something on how they do things? Like, what are your thoughts?
That's a really good question. I mean, I'm just a guy with a camera, so who knows? But to me, I think they'll just try and do the same thing over again. They'll try and get the in-space burn done, which they had to abort on Flight 3. They'll obviously want to have better roll control of the ship, and we already know that there's not going to be any satellites on Flight 4. So I don't know. What do you think, Alex?
I agree that we're probably going to see the same kind of goals there, where they try also to open the door and close it again and things like that. They already mentioned, as you said before, Shotwell already said that they're not planning yet to put any satellites on this flight. I wouldn't be surprised, if they change their minds and maybe they put something in. But whatever it is, it's gonna go into that suborbital trajectory either way. So it's probably gonna be something that is like an oversized paperweight, right? As I usually call it. That it's not gonna be anything functional at all because it's gonna re-enter just like the ship. Um, but yeah, that engine. So obviously they need to go up there and have better attitude control and have a better opening and closing of. They say they tested it, but it's like I I have my doubts about the success criteria of that test. Um, but obviously they need to work on that payload bay door. They need to work on that engine relight. It was not because the vehicle, like the engines were bad or something. It was just all down to that attitude control
Right.
issue that they had. So obviously my thinking is that I really want to see them, have a proper ship in orbit that has proper attitude control, so that we can see that um um that
The
engine
in-space
relight,
burn.
exactly, that engine relight, and also the re-entry attitude to be the correct one instead of engines first entry attitude.
Right. That's not exactly nominal. All right, well, at this point, I think we will bid you adieu, Chris. Thank you for being on.
Always a pleasure. Yes, I'm going to do some clipping of what we hope will be a static fire test, and I can't multitask, so I'm going to stop talking while we do that. The last thing I want to do is record my own voice going, static fire, oh no. No one likes hearing their own voice.
I like hearing your voice, though, Chris.
Thanks, Jack.
All right, well, thank you. Fire up the Bandicam and stand by because we could be just minutes away from this engine firing here with Ship 29. And we're going to swap in good old Adrian. Adrian, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here for the. I'm kind of. I mean, Chris did all the heavy lifting into work now, and I'm just stepping in here to see a static fire, apparently. But I'm looking forward to see a static fire here. Looking good so far. I was watching.
Yeah, everything is progressing smoothly. The vehicle has propellant in it. I know a lot of people are saying that they don't see a propellant or a frost line on the methane tank, but for these tests, a lot of the time they only fill up the tank to the bare minimum, and that bulkhead in there, the common dome, is like a big dish, and there's not necessarily methane touching the walls of the ship, right?
Yeah, of course. You have two factors here. You have the transfer tube in the middle of the LOX tank, which will start to fill up first. So it's kind of like that's already a bit of a massive area that you have to fill up with methane before it even reaches the tank itself. And then you have the downward shaped common bulkhead, which also needs to fill up first. And once that happens, that would where you would really start to touch the outer tank walls. And again, as you said, methane is kind of the gas that you really, or liquid in this case, that you really want to limit yourself on because it can be quite explosive in a combination with liquid oxygen, which is why they use it. So in a way to mitigate the risk of the test and also mitigate potential environmental impacts of the test, they are using less methane.
There you go. Tom, thanks for becoming a Capcom member. Josh Schulten, thank you for the support. They say, do you think the new restroom facility will be robust enough that a launch director... Wow. I'm just gonna close that. Anonymous, thank you for the support. They say, buying this sweet t-shirt out of my B-Day money, I have a question. Are they going to ignite all 6 Raptors for today's static fire? Thank you for the coverage from Chronoblitz.
It's Ooh, well, you want to report that?
Yeah, Mary is saying that she heard a siren.
A short siren.
A short siren.
Somewhere in the somewhere in a village. Nothing at the checkpoint yet, but a short siren is still a siren.
Hooray! So here we go, 10-minute siren, and it's not exactly 10 minutes, so still tracking to roughly what you were thinking, right, Alex?
Yeah, it tracks that. Yep.
Excellent.
Also, all of the people coming from next space flight, welcome. I send that notification.
Hello, next
Nice.
spaceflight watchers. And also, to quickly answer that, I think the question was if we expect 6 engines today, right?
Hopefully, yes.
It's an, I would say also, hopefully, yes. I would say it's either 6 or 1, because for both you have good arguments to be made.
You know what?
Oh, go ahead.
Because I tracked the countdown things, you know, all of these sort of things that we look for when we track the timings of these, and I'm mostly sure that you were probably referring to the one engine the single engine relight test and everything. Those have a much shorter time from frost appearing to the test happening. They do still have 30-minute engine chill apparently. That doesn't change, but they start the engine chill much earlier, and you can see there those those header tank vents, as I was mentioning before. That is also sort of in the last 10 minutes of the test countdown, so to speak. But yeah, this is not, at least if it is one single engine, or at least if it's not 6 engines, either something interesting is going on in terms of the testing that they're doing, but it does not track the engine relight test, like the in-space burn kind of test that they did, both with Ship 26 and Ship 28.
There we go. So
Got
most
it.
likely 6 then.
Beautiful venting coming from the flaps in the header tank.
Absolutely, and apparently there's also a drone heading to the pad, which we will add to more good indicators, because SpaceX probably wants to film this test. So a drone on the way to the pad is also certainly a good sign on the good sign list. Is that
I
a name?
like the good sign list. It's a good list.
It's the good list, like the good sign list versus the bad sign list. There's multiple signs.
This is just gorgeous. A vehicle very clearly ready for a test.
Yep, absolutely.
It's that same vibe as when there's a rocket sitting on the pad and you're just like, wow, okay, this thing is ready to go.
I don't know why,
it
but
cannot be understated.
I feel like it also makes me like it also is way more exciting sometimes with Starship, because we don't have a like super accurate countdown. Yes, we have thanks to Alex spreadsheet estimations here, we have a rough timeline, but the fact that we don't have like this 100% accurate clock here is also giving this a bit more tension.
Yeah, one of the other things that we look for, but it's obviously a lot closer to, like the header tank venting and everything. It's a good sign that they are progressing, but it is not a sign of when things are going to happen, because sometimes these vents, they are not, timed to the minute or something like that. Usually things like loading the propellants or the engine chill when it starts and everything, those are more well timed in a sequence when you think about it, right? The vents just happen whenever they need to happen, and they not always occur at a specific time. But there's another event that we should be looking at here in this view is fantastic for that. Should be the water coming out. So the water will be coming out from the right, well below the stand. It's basically like a garden hose kind of thing, where it just shoots water from the right to the left of the stand in this view. And so that will mean that we are very close to a test, essentially within seconds. So as soon as we see that water coming out, we'll definitely, shut our mouths and let you all enjoy of the test. But
I mean,
that's sort of the next event.
It also comes down because we cannot talk anymore, because the static fire has a certain amount of volume.
That is also true.
Yeah, even if we tried to talk, you wouldn't hear us. I also want to point out for everybody that is watching right now, we will only be able to show certain angles, of course, during the live event because, well, you weren't shown certain angles during the live event. But stick with us after the event because, well, there's some replays of every angle we have. So as always, we're trying to prepare that as well. So making sure to hit that as well. But again, we'll focus on the best angle for this one. And I'm staring at this. I'm staring at concrete. There's a giant ship that we could watch, but I'm staring at concrete if concrete gets wet.
It's gonna be visible. It's like like a garden hose kind of thing coming out. So it's definitely gonna be visible.
Yep.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, we're gonna have plenty. We have lots of cameras pointed at this vehicle right now. So once the test happens, we're gonna start pulling all of those feeds and have many replays for you to watch and look at the how many engines and how did it look like and did tiles fell off, right?
Yeah,
That kind of analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I'm looking forward to I always like these post static fire analysis because we don't have instant tweet from SpaceX ready, right? We don't have anything already prepared and we don't know everything yet. So I always like to go a bit of an analyzing part here. Jack, do you think it will be 6 engines?
I think that's likely. I mean, it could be 2, it could be 6. I feel like it's going to be 6, and then if we see another test with this vehicle, it'll either be because the 6 didn't go well, which seems increasingly rare with all of their lately. Raptor has really been doing great, or it'll be that simulated in space burn that we were talking about.
There we
We'll
go.
be coming
So
up on that test really soon. So
yeah, it's I think it's gonna be either 6 or 1. Everything else would shock me. Like if you see 4, I would be like, huh? That's off. That's I don't like 4.
Let's see.
looking for that water.
I know. I'm like, it could be any moment now.
Yeah, we're very, very close. And also that engine chill is making me nervous because it's like getting in the way, right? It's like, come on, blow the other way.
It could also be in 30 minutes from now because we had holes in the past. I'm just saying, like,
No,
there's always the
let's not
possibility that we just stare at concrete for 30 minutes. We had that before.
Let's not hold, please. We don't need more of these.
I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, it's fair to point out, but we have no reason to believe there has been a hold, and we are hoping we're just moments away from an engine firing with this brand new ship. Good old Ship 29. I have a good feeling about Ship 29.
I mean, I don't because the number 9 so far in the Starship program,
Water.
it's not really.
Water.
There we go. There's the water deluge. Here we go. Excellent. We will pull some replays of that so we can take a look at all of the different angles and try and deduce what it was that we just saw.
Yep,
It
I'm
looked
already.
like, I mean, yeah, you're. Thank you. It was a lot of engines. It certainly wasn't one engine. The amount of dust we're seeing kicked up alone, I feel like that was a 6-engine test.
I think we could see the 3 center engines initially spooling up, and then there was a second flash where the 3 vacuums spool up. I think that's what just happened, which is the usual pattern we see. I think you see at the beginning the venting from 3 centers, and then you can see the brightness changes. That's the indicator that the vacuums most likely spooled up, like a half a second later. So I would, again, waiting for replays, waiting for like final confirmation, but this feels very six engine to me.
Essentially.
Yes,
Six
I would agree.
engine-ish.
Also, hey, 112, right? It eventually ended up being 112.
Congratulations, Alex.
Nice work.
Nailed
I'm not
it.
picking up your job, but it's definitely something.
No. I feel like around the booster times it has become like a co-op job, and I'm very happy to like you just nailed this one.
Yeah, even from far away, you can kind of see the two engine ignitions, because obviously they ignite the centers, and then, which is weird because during flight it's first the vacuums and then the centers, but for testing they do the centers first and then the vacuums, which is interesting. But you can see the sort of two different, even from far away you can see like two different flashes, and we'll obviously go through that on the replays. But
I will already tell to our pool people and operators. CP11 has it.
yeah, CP11 is
Yeah,
a good
CP.
view.
You can see on CP11 how it happens. Just saying that for people who are preparing these replays.
Also, the amount
Are we
of
allowed?
dust that falls from the vehicle, boy.
Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, that was very clearly a very powerful event. Just based on the amount of dust. I'm glad you said that, Alex.
There's
But
There's
yes,
another-
are we allowed to call it CP11, or Crispy
Yeah.
might get mad? I think it's supposed to be called Pony Cam or something.
First thing, I think I just did that. I'm sorry if it's Ponycam. Yeah, there's another part on why there's so much dust here. This is the old mid bay. So remember that the mid bay was demolished. You know which ship was in the front of the high bay at that moment? Ship 29.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, you just
No
saw a lot
kidding.
of mid bay dust.
that was remains of the mid bay being scattered.
Yep.
You can see the drone is next to the vehicle. It's like a little smudge. I thought it was like my screen. Oh, my screen is dirty or something. No, that's a drone.
Yeah, I just tried to clean my screen. Thank you for making me aware. Yeah.
I'm looking forward to these replays. I really want to see this dusty ship fire its engines.
You know,
really,
I was gonna say, if you're waiting for replays but you are a member, you can use the member multi-view. Just scroll back. Just saying.
which is why I use, by the way. I'm going back and forth right now, and
That's like an
getting
instant replay kind of thing. You just scroll back through all those feeds. But you gotta be a member. So
yeah, it's I'm feeling pretty sure. So I think what we can at this point say is it is we saw three. Like I can very much verify I saw three ignite, and then we saw a number of additional engines ignite. The complicated thing with this always is because there's already a plume of three engines in a way. You cannot really verify it's like if it's one, two, or three vacuum engines. But
Right.
It's always like I think we saw more than three, and based on everything we've seen, most likely six. That's
Yeah, and it was like
does
a
that
5
feel
or
accurate?
6 second duration.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree.
Want me to time it? I can time
Please.
it.
Alex,
I'll time it.
I have to say it. Alex, good job with the data.
I gotta say it's not really how to say this. It's not really that hard because you just put in numbers on the spreadsheet and then the spreadsheet just does everything on its own. But yeah, it's a lot of looking back on tests, and so far they haven't changed the way that they do this testing, right? So as long as they keep the same kind of process, we're probably gonna be right on the dot. When they do something different, we'll notice because that's when all of the times will be off by a lot.
I'm doing some
Um,
highly advanced A/B testing here.
It's 4.5 seconds. I
Hang on
think.
just a second.
I timed it, and I'm getting roughly 4.5 seconds.
By the way, in terms
Nice.
of the tiles, I've seen a few drop, but I mean most of them seem to
Yeah,
be.
that's the highly advanced A/B testing that I'm doing right now. I'm looking at before and after. I count at least 4, 5. I mean, it's just a really quick glance, but there's what many tens of thousands of tiles on a ship. Not not the end of the world to me. Obviously, something they have to solve, but that's what they're doing with these tests.
But also, as Chris was mentioning before when he was here, these tests are closer to the ground. You're essentially stressing the vehicle because, first of all, it is essentially held down to the ground, and the resonance and all of the vibrations do differently than if it is, flying free, so to speak. Because then you don't have. It's sort of the same difference as if you have a string and you just let it vibrate or something. But if you held it at one point at one end, then it vibrates different. Similar thing with here, that you have the ship being held to the ground on the bottom of it, right? So one end is being held, and if you vibrate it, the resonance and everything of that vibration, it's not going to be the same. Everything changes, right? So the way that the tiles act against that is going to be different, and you don't see that kind of thing during flight. During flight, it is held and there's vibrations, but it is from a vehicle, from engines that are located 70 meters down on the booster. And when the engines ignite, it is already unclamped. Like it's not attached to anything. It just flies off and it does its thing, right? So it's not the same condition. And then also it is close to the ground. You don't have sound suppression system or anything like it. So of course it's different conditions. You cannot do a one-to-one kind of thing. But even then, the tiles held up, as you mentioned. There's like 18,000 of them, and what, 5 or 6 fell off? No big deal.
I
That's less
can.
than 0.1%.
We can see a tile moving away on trailer 01. I can already tease that. In a frame by frame analysis, we can see it going away.
And we have those replays coming in hot, so stand by, and we will be able to watch the action frame by frame from all the different angles.
Yep. So we should say, like, we don't know how critical all of these tiles always are. Like, there's always a chance one of these tiles were like in a critical position. So that's the SpaceX analysis, but really hard for us to.
I once said, did Alex just describe a guitar? Yeah, a guitar works like that, right? If you hold it in place in different locations and then vibrate it, there's different frequencies. So the same thing happens here with a ship. That's totally correct.
I don't. Yes. All right. Yes. Good, Alex. Yes. Standing by for the replays. Really quick, I will thank some people for their support. Blake Alexander, thank you so much. They say, what are you most worried about going wrong on the next flight? I don't know if worried is the right answer, but the thing I would most not want to have happen on the next flight is the same thing that happened on flight 3. Like, I want the ship to have roll control is the main thing. So I would be most worried about the same problem happening again and SpaceX having to fly one more time and not be able to move on to other different problems, like, say, the heat shield. But Alex, what are you most worried about going wrong on Flight 4?
I will agree with you that if they had the same issues as they had, even same issues as Flight 1, Flight 2, Flight 3, and any repeat of issues will be bad, obviously. Even the tiles, since we were mentioning the tiles, Ship 25 had a lot of tiles falling off. Ship 28 did not have the same kind of number of tiles. It did, we saw tiles falling off, Ship 28, of course, but it seemed to be like at least an order of magnitude less, like ship 25 was probably well over 100, and maybe was a dozen of them on ship 28. It was probably not more than that, and so just improvements. If things do not improve, and by improving I mean not repeating the same failures. If it has a failure, I understand it's a development program, and if it has a failure of something new, that I even understand more. What I don't want is failures of things that have already happened before, like engines blowing up and during ascent. I mean, during descent. Well, that's a whole different story. Because yeah, but essentially the same thing. And I will certainly wouldn't want to see ship 29 again losing control in space and not being able to test the reentry. That would be not ideal for Flight 4. It really needs to get to the point of at least getting into the correct attitude for reentry. If it's lost during reentry again, that's something new. That is not something that they have failed before. So
Right.
it's okay to. But
All right, we have
at
our
least.
replays.
Woo,
Here we
here
go.
Let's go to the replays.
Yeah, CP11 shows it great. You can see the 2 ignition events on CP11, so look forward to this. Huh? There. Flash 1, Flash 2.
The dust.
See it? Just again, Flash 1, Flash 2.
Yeah.
That's the
You can
vacuum
see
engines.
the flames. If you look at
That's
at the left hand side, you can see some of the flames shooting out on the second thing, the second ignition. So I'm guessing
yeah.
that's probably
Holy cow.
boom. There you go. See?
By the berm. Yeah.
Yep.
Boom. That's the vacuums.
Yeah, that's probably the vacuums.
What a beautiful static fire.
That's how it aligns. It's crazy.
And just that huge amount of dust that's kicked up.
The mid bay. It's just so hilarious. Look at all that dust.
It's so funny that you guys remembered that was the one that was outside the mid bay when they demolished it. I did not remember that. I did not know. I mean, I don't know. That's just hilarious.
That's I have to
If we're
shout out
naming
here.
ships, I think we should name 29 the dusty one.
Absolutely. I have to shout out here Ryan Weber as well, because I was the other day talking with him about exactly this, and he pointed this out to me. So I will give the shout outs here. I don't like it's always these late night conversation between Alex, Ryan, and me where we are like, okay, let's talk about Starship for 2 hours, and that's where you really learn a lot. Like it's always good. Yeah, it's the late night Starship podcast.
I'm on board.
I mean,
Oh,
would be
that
fun.
is beautiful.
Look at that.
Can we show that again?
Yeah, show the tiles.
Again and again and again.
Yeah, you can see a tile eating off there, like in the bottom. And he's
I'm looking for it.
There you go.
It's like a frame before the flames come. You could see a tile being like, I'm gone.
In any case, I don't know if the video goes long enough to see after the fact, or maybe even on the live view, we can probably have the same camera, and we do before and after. Sorry, producer, for the hard job.
If that works, that would be amazing. Like putting the wide shot in live and then the same angle. Oh, here, you can see it in frame. Yeah. So that's the frame by frame where I could see the tile going away. It's really hard to see.
It's so.
But you see it, right? It's like it's like a frame before the dust comes. It's like whoop, gone.
See ya.
It's like see ya, bye. It's so funny. I'm not sure if we can frame by frame this. If not, don't worry about it.
Yeah, wait for me.
There's 3 clearly at the very beginning.
Yeah. and then the fourth one is like flying away in the first ignition moment. Also, it's all good. Like it's not no big deal for frame by frame. But yeah, CP11 really I think
Absolutely.
is the killer angle here.
Yeah, what a beautiful day for a static fire.
Yeah, it's like I don't know that this is one of the most beautiful static fires I think we have so far on the suborbital sense. Like this is definitely up there.
And now this means we're one step closer to Flight 4.
Also, like they're so clean with these. Like they just go into
no
a
abort.
countdown. Yeah.
I remember
I love
the good old days, in air quotes, of having to wait for, multiple aborts due to some issue at the last second, waiting for a static fire. I mean, that's where we got tank watching from in the first place. Well, that and the test tanks. But yeah, very clean count, seemingly. I mean, we don't have any insight into what SpaceX might have been going on in their control room, but we saw the ship fueled. We saw it sort of adhere to the timeline that we know based on Alex and you and others gathering data on all the static fires that we've ever seen. And it just seemed like everything went swimmingly. Now
People
what?
are saying that they don't see the tiles, but really, if you look at the footage, you can see one of them falling off, and it is true that some of them were already missing. We're talking about the ones that are missing from after the test. And there you can see the back and forth,
Right.
the replay, and the live. Like maybe if we stop the video before the test, we can see that. There we go.
Yeah.
See, you can see some tiles are missing up. Like right.
The flaps, the forward flaps, there's one missing.
Yeah, there's one missing in the middle of the ship between the forward flaps, and then there's a couple of them at the bottom. But again, as I was mentioning before, this is not a big deal. This is not the same situation as a launch. It's not the same conditions. Definitely not the same conditions, that I can tell you, because I don't see that much dust coming off from the vehicle.
Yeah, there's absolutely tiles going here. Like I see some people being in the chat like, there's no tiles at all. There are definitely tiles flying here.
But even if you compare it to previous static fires, like I believe Ship 28 had a lot more, even from the flap section. I believe it was like the flap aero cover section on the aft of the ship. It had a lot more tiles coming off, and previous vehicles as well. So this is, I think, without actually going into detailed counting of the tiles that fell off, it appears to me at least that is much more cleaner than even prior static fires, which again different conditions, but even under if you compare different ships on that same different condition from launch, right? Static fires. You compare different static fires, and it kind of looks like this ship did a lot better than the previous ones.
Yep, absolutely. Again, they're working on it. They're trying to understand what makes them lose, and again, they're probably expecting some tiles to lose during the static fire. Important is will they behave during launch, not during a static fire.
Either way, I would agree with Alex that it definitely seems like Ship 29 has held up better, and that progression is what this test program is all about. So, I mean, I'm in good spirits. Like, excellent. We got a test done with Ship 29. Let's see what they do with it next. Do we think they'll do another static fire with Ship 29 in the coming days?
There's this suspicious plural in the static fires and the SpaceX tweet, right? Which might indicate they are doing two, maybe the deorbit one again, which we have seen before. So I think that we are possibly looking at one more static fire of this deorbit configuration of a single engine static fire, and then Ship 29 might be closed out and be done for testing. That's at least my expectation based on this. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's tricky to not read too far. Ooh, we got a close-up tile cam here. Oh, I love this. Taking a close look at that heat shield.
Look at that heat shield versus like early heat shields. It's so crazy how much better it looks. Loving it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Like if you get a chance to see Ship 20, or if you look at the pictures of Ship 20's heat shield compared to this, the improvement is remarkable. I see a cracked tile right there.
Yep, that's
Like on the one hand, we're fixating on every little tile issue, and yes, it's a very important thing to be solved, but it's a solvable problem, right? Like they solved it with the space shuttle, they'll solve it with Starship. That's what this testing is for. So I don't want to be like down on Starship or anything, but being like, oh look, they lost this many tiles, and oh there's a cracked tile. But it's interesting to watch the progression. I mean, compared to other static fires of a ship where we've seen like many tiles fall off. I mean, that progression is what we want to see.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just part of this analyzing and understanding, right? Like we could all sit here and be like, okay, nice test, see you next time, but that's no fun. I just like to understand what we are seeing and like understand progression and understand like get some of my own thoughts into this, because that's why we are here, right? We wanna think about this, we wanna understand this. So yeah, we are not nitpicky, we are just trying to have fun looking at the things we can look at. That's why we looked at the engine plumes earlier, if you missed that.
Let's see. We're way behind on support because static fire. So let me run through some here. Stephen T, thank you for the support. They say, do you know if Surveyor 1 has been located and photographed? Great coverage. Go SpaceX, go Starship. I have no idea. And they got a print. Nice. They got a metal print. Beautiful.
Isn't that the other surveyor? There was one of the surveyors that was lost on the way to the moon. That's a whole different kind of question here. But yeah, I think what they're talking about is that, yeah.
Sheriff Tracy, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Josh Schulten, thank you for the support. They say, what do you think will be the first payload to be set down on the moon from Starship? That's a really good question. Probably some kind of rover would be my guess. Like, if we're going to send a Starship, we should also be able to send some kind of lunar rover for our astronauts. Adrian, what do you think?
Good question. I would be very surprised if there's not like some sort of scientific test payload included in the landing demonstration, because well, it's still part of the Artemis demonstration program, right? It's still part of the whole NASA effort, and like NASA probably has more payloads than slots to the moon right now. So I would be very surprised if they not include at least one cheeky payload, or like, I mean, they could include a lot of payloads to the moon in a Starship. There's quite some space.
Chad is saying Cybertruck, of course.
I'm not sure if I want to.
Moon Cybertruck?
Okay, listen, hear me out here. Yes, a Cybertruck on the moon would be a cool symbol, but if I have to pick between scientific payloads on the moon and a Cybertruck, I would pick the scientific payloads any day.
Well, what if you put them on the Cybertruck, so it's a science Cybertruck?
A science truck?
Yes.
Isn't that just the rover with extra steps?
Moving on, Jared Walker, thank you for the super chat. They say, seeing how unstable ship was on orbit, do you think ship will get an RCS? I think some changes to vehicle hardware are likely. Who knows exactly what that'll be, but after this engine testing campaign, once they roll Ship 29 back to the production site, we will definitely be keeping a close eye on it.
Oh boy.
Dan Alani, thank you for becoming a launch
Jack?
director member. That is amazing.
Jack,
What? What?
didn't you hear that?
Oh, oh, hey, Das.
I don't know.
It's Das.
Is my audio okay?
Yes.
I just don't.
I can
You're
hear
really
you.
quiet to me.
Oh, chat. Can y'all hear me okay? Y'all let me know. I did a thing. I saw everybody like complaining whether or not tiles were lost or not. So I can do an A/B test if y'all want.
Yes.
Yes, let's A/B test.
Okay.
Also, thank you, Dan, for being a launch director. Oh, we have an ahem.
Here.
We have an ahem.
Yeah, y'all might need to turn me up a little bit. Sorry, I was on conference calls and stuff like that. But this is before, and there's after. Before, it's actually not going to match up. But you can see that there are at least 1, 2, 3, a whole patch there, 4, 5, 6. I count 6 from this view. Anybody have a different count?
I also earlier came to 6, so I think it's roughly 6 from what we can see from this angle.
Yeah, it
Might
looks
be
like
7.
6 tiles.
Yeah. And there was also
Yeah,
one
that's what it
crack,
looks like.
I think.
Which seems like no big deal.
We take a minute
No.
to ignore the tiles and say, holy cow, the vapor and dust coming off the heat shield is just gorgeous at ignition.
Right there.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yes. Like, my God. That's
There's
beautiful.
there's your mid bay.
Yeah. Look at that. That's
Yeah. All right, tiles.
That's why. Can we make it a new thing that we park Starship next to the construction work so it gets more dust on them, so the static fire looks more fancy?
I mean, I'm in. It's probably not the best for FOD or
Halo.
or having a clean environment on orbit, but
Yeah, probably not. But
Probably
hey,
the first rocket to
so
send
Ross, what's your
dust into orbit.
take?
my take is my work here is done, and I'm gonna hop off the call. No, I'm kidding. As long as folks can hear me okay, it looks good. It went. There wasn't a bunch of delays or anything like that. Y'all were talking about how many engines is it? It's always so hard to see, but it looked like there were multiple engines there, right? Not a big deal if a couple of tiles shake off because it's strapped right down to the pad, unlike when it has the entire booster underneath it, right? I don't see any, didn't see any like concrete flying or anything like that, which is always nice. So it looks super clean to me, honestly.
Indeed, a really great test today.
Yeah, and we've seen questions about detanking. I'm seeing signs of that. Like right to the left of this camera right now. I don't know why, but it's like just framed. There we go. And the other one can see it. There you go. You can see that pipe venting, sort of like right in the middle of those 3 tanks, like next to those 3 tanks. And so that's the one that we call the vent stack. The reason for that is because this is the old flare stack. The one that Jack said, oh, if this was methane, it would be in the flare stack.
Really?
And that was
Really?
the last time we saw the flare stack active. After that, they changed the whole suborbital pad, and it's essentially now the vent stack because it vents instead of having a flare, and that is essentially part of the reclaimer system that they have to be able to reclaim the propellants when they do detanking.
Yeah, if
So
you're
it
wondering
vents because-
what exactly Alex is talking about, it is to the right of the trebuchet, which
Yeah,
is a sentence I just said.
that.
There you go. There's a nice close-up. All right, well, the road closure today was until 8 p.m. Road is still closed. Who knows what they could do, but at least right now they are detanking. And we'll keep you posted if any of the road closures change or get updated or what have you. But thank you, Das, for the tile comparison.
No problem. I just figured I'd hop in. I've been in the background looking at technical stuff, and y'all were talking about the A/B test, so we spooled up a camera where I could show it to you. No problem.
Yay.
Yay.
yay! I mean, it's
Doug
kind of
L, thank you for upgrading to Capcom. You get Discord access. Hop into Discord and say, hey, Adrian, sorry, I interrupted you, please.
I really like the progression here because and I still remember the times when we are like, oh, static fire comes up, will they survive it? And at this point, they are just how many engines, how many tiles did they lost? Like a lot of them we are just at these like very very close details instead of will it stand after this?
Yeah, will it not blow up?
Yeah.
No, and as we see more vehicles fly, it's just going to get more and more refined. I mean, that's what we were talking about around the start of the stream, about Falcon 9 sort of paving the way. And I can't wait until we see Starship get to a point where we have Falcon 9 like cadence. It's going to be amazing. Just a matter of years.
And I was gonna say about that other potential second static fire. You know, my gut feeling says that maybe they won't try today, but you never know, right? I think they're probably gonna take the data from today's test and then maybe set that up. Hopefully tomorrow. Like that could be a thing that could happen rather quickly. But I think there's a good chance that they may just stick around with that data, keep them close, and look at it and see if they need to tweak anything, and then go for that other test. But prove me wrong. SpaceX is what I usually say. Yeah, and for people, because I just saw a comment talking about how it is so frosty. That is mostly because the tank is cold. The level of the liquid oxygen inside, it's actually going down, and it's mostly the thing that happens when they have these tests and they load the liquid oxygen tank. It's actually only loaded like a couple of rings. It's not really entirely. You see the entire tank being frosty because they keep depressing the tank, and by depressing the tank, you cool it down. Whole physics thing going on there, but essentially it's the same thing as a high pressure can and you spray it, right, and so the can just becomes very cold. Similar thing happens here. It's high pressure, you release the pressure, it just cools down, and even that frost eventually decreases. And if you look closely, A/B testing there, the feed, you can see that even that has come down, because now the tank is starting to heat up. So we'll see.
Right, we'll see that frost recede. There's some lag there, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Do either of you, does anyone here remember a static fire with a ship where we saw flames coming over the berm quite that high? Do I just have a bad memory, or was that a little bit extra today that we got?
I wonder. Like, I have to go back. It didn't look like significantly more powerful than usual. It looked maybe a bit more powerful than usual. I wonder if they're getting a bit more confident in like what the limits was in the and like what's the limit are in these testings, and they tune it up a notch. But I do not recall like this kind of burn fire.
I'm wondering, throttle setting. Maybe they're increasing the throttle setting for this test, or maybe maybe they just care less about being nice to Pad B since they're building a shiny new ship static fire stand over at Massey's. But either way, that was a really beautiful test, and we'll have to wait and see how Pad B held up. No craters here, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's always this crazy feeling we have right now, because this might, like, we are approaching at some point the last test on the stand, right? We just don't know yet which one it will be, but there is at some point there's certainly a chance that this might be close to the last test on the stand, because this is the future second launch site. So at some point, the stand will go, and they will start to move static fires to Massey. So it's certainly also interesting from that perspective, because this pad has been with us for so long.
Right. It's, I mean, good old Pad B. So I'm glad. I'm glad we got such a beautiful test today.
Yes, I agree.
Let's see. Elmad, thank you for the support. They say, I love the condensation frost melting, flowing down the ship. Right, that was beautiful. Also, dust, apparently.
So, hey, Jack,
Yeah,
you like Starship analysis, right?
I do like Starship analysis. How did you know?
I don't know, just a gut feeling. How about we get somebody like on the show who really understands like a certain aspect of Starship and analyze it, and maybe publish a paper about it?
I'm interested. Tell me more.
So, if you're interested about that, I would maybe bookmark this Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, because Das will talk with Dr. Phil Metzger, who recently published a paper on the particle interaction during Starship Flight 1, the Starship Flight 1 pet incident, I would call it. And we will have Dr. Metzger on this Saturday. Das will interview him, and I really think that's a prime opportunity to ask some amazing questions about super heavy and particle interactions at launch. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
Hey, I'm back. You're talking about me.
Yes.
Hey, you're back. This is
I'm
going to be
back.
awesome, Das.
No, it's going to be amazing. So there was an entire thing where, does anybody know who Dr. Phil Metzger is? Dr. Metzger does a ton of work down in Florida, was with NASA, Swamp Works, has done basically everything, but specializes in like pad dynamics, rocket plumes interacting with regolith and ground and concrete and all this sort of stuff, right? That's sort of like his area that he focuses on. And he did a bunch of very specific looking at Starship Launch 1 to try and figure out what exactly happened with the pad. And we actually helped with it a little bit. It was like a citizen science endeavor where we provided a bunch of our video, and then he also got samples of the particulates that were falling in Port Isabel and all this sort of stuff, right? And observed all of these different things, all these different variables, all these different facts, and then came up with a model of what happened to the pad. So that paper actually came out a couple days ago, last week, I think, and it has the results of the team's findings as to exactly how it was likely that that pad failed. And we are going to talk with, hey, there's the paper. Look at that. We're going to talk with Dr. Metzger next weekend as sort of a specially scheduled NSF Live and go over the findings of that paper with what happened or what might have happened. Because again, this is based on observations from the outside of what might have happened during that pad. And I'm specifically interested in it. Do y'all remember when I did the pressure washer thing?
Yes.
Right?
I do remember the pressure washer thing. I love the
Yes.
pressure washer thing.
We almost need to do like another pressure washer video, like go back to that in light of the findings of the paper. Because my theory when I was playing with the pressure washer, because I could simulate force, but I couldn't really simulate the heat, right? What I was doing with the pressure washer was saying, okay, what happens if you have a high stream or a high pressure stream, like a plume, that got through the concrete to the underneath and then pressurized the underneath of the concrete? Like, what would happen? And we showed sort of how that concrete pad blew up, basically, as soon as it got pressurized underneath. And so that's what I could simulate with the pressure washer. We did all these different tests, and we added it into that one Starship analysis video. And then other people were like, oh, no, that's not what happened. That's not how, oh, no, it's actually a steam explosion, right? It wasn't the pad cracking and then the forces being bottled up and then rebounding. It was a steam explosion because of the groundwater, right? There's all these videos about steam explosions. Well, if you read the paper, in the calculation of exactly how much groundwater there was underneath, it's highly unlikely that a groundwater steam explosion had anything to do with chunks of concrete being flung tens, hundreds of meters into the air. And it looks like it is more likely, based on the calculations, that the impingement, the plume actually cracking the concrete downward a little bit and then starting to pressurize the area under the concrete, that pressure that was able to get through the crack and then build up is what blew that concrete so high into the air, not steam, like water flashing to steam. So it's really interesting to me because I was trying to figure out, like, oh, can I fire a blowtorch at concrete. Like I don't have any Raptor engines just sitting around. Although if you saw the last Starbase update, Jack, if you get one of those Raptors from Elon, let me know.
I'll share.
You'll share the Raptor engine. We'll fire it at some concrete somewhere. I don't think I can do that in my backyard.
I think some people would be mad at you if you fire a Raptor engine in your backyard.
Do I have
Some.
to give like I'll put out overpressure notices in my neighborhood, like my next door neighbors. I'll be like, please don't stand
That's
near
amazing.
windows. You might want to come outside. I'll sound a siren and everything if that's what I need to do a Raptor static fire in my backyard. But
Just like ride around on a bike, honking one of those little honky horns.
like that sort of deal.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was super interesting because I did sort of that fun experiment. I wasn't saying I got any specific experimental results. I was just like, what if we fired a pressure washer at some grout, right? And the slow motion video of that happening and that sort of video we put together. And then the actual scientific paper comes out and it sort of reinforces our observations from firing a pressure washer at some grout in my backyard. I thought that was really cool. That it like the pressure washer had nothing to do with the paper. They're sort of two parallel things, but it's really cool that the scientific findings sort of back up what we were able to illustrate, I guess, test, experiment with on a small scale using things that you probably have in your garage if you have a garage. So
I am so here for roadside rocket science and backyard also science.
Science,
Grout
air quotes.
science. I don't know what you want to call it, but
Put air
yeah,
quotes.
I'm here for it. That's going to be really fun NSF Live. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully our viewers are too.
Yep.
And thanks to Dr. Phil for being on.
Yeah, that's going to be fantastic. Okay, I'll be quiet again.
Thank you, Das.
Oh,
No, thank y'all. I'm trying to get this one replay off this one camera. The clock was set wrong on the camera, and so I'm just having to guess where in the clock, like what video segment time period I need to pull from the camera to get the local video off of it, and I haven't succeeded yet, so I'll let y'all get back to talking.
fun.
Huh.
I will run through some more support here while we watch the ship get detanked. You can see the good old vent stack there on the left-hand side. Also, nice dragonfly. Josh Schulten, thank you for the support. They say, during the hurricane of IFT3, did you guys see any temperature spikes on your equipment at camera sites? I wonder how far away the heat from exhaust travels. Now, that's a DOS question.
Hi, it's me.
DOS, do we see temperature spikes from launches?
We do have internal temperature sensors for some of the equipment, but they're more like CPU temperatures, right? And so that's, you can't really look at that and say the temperature spiked, but I can tell you this. Some of the way that we weatherproof some of the cameras that aren't really weatherproofed or weather sealed, we just take a regular plastic bag and we wrap it around the camera and we gaffer tape it to keep it from blowing around or like making bag noises on the microphone, right? And the regular plastic bags that we had around the cameras there at Danger Lot, which is 1,300 feet away. I think we were like 1,340 feet specifically from the OLM, give or take a few. Those plastic bags showed no sign of deformation due to heat. So I don't know. Oh, here's the Celsius number that the bag starts to melt, right? I don't know that number, but the thin plastic bags we had on the cameras did not show any sign of melting. So whatever temperatures got there, it was not something that could melt a plastic bag. How's that?
There you go. Thanks, DOS.
Yeah, no problem. All right, bye.
Bye. Stabby Unicorn, thank you for the $50 tip. They say, I definitely, an expert who knows a lot, do not have confidence in the tiles and think they should look into other mechanisms of protection during re-entry. I assume they're being sarcastic. I mean, there was like supposed to be transpirational cooling at one point. But yeah, I'm kind of on, I think I'm on Team Tile. Adrian, are you on Team Tile?
I'm on Team Tile. I still miss the idea of like the whole regenerative cooling stuff and the whole what was it, transpirational cooling, basically emitting stuff out of the body of the ship and cooling it with that. Like, that would have been cool, but I feel like at this point they're really putting a lot of effort in understanding this heat shield. So yes, I'm Team Tile.
Yeah, they are very clearly committed to this architecture at this point. That said, the things that like Stoke are doing, for example, with their regeneratively cooled heat shield on their second stage is like that's really neat. So I'm here for stuff like that. There's many different solutions to the problem. SpaceX has chosen tiles. Foolproof Duck, thank you for the support. They say, given how they always have to repair the orbital launch mount after every flight, is this rapid reusability that Elon talks about really possible? How can they launch on the same day when they have to repair the OLM? So we were talking about this earlier. The orbital launch mount we see on. Oh God, is that a spider?
No. Put another camera, please.
Yeah, please, another camera.
Oh, Lord.
Adrian loves spiders.
Alex also loves spiders. He's just more secretive about it.
No, look,
That's
small
probably
spiders,
smart.
I don't care. The problem is, we don't want to scare people away, and especially Adrian, which is here in commentary. And that's probably a small
I've never
spider,
wanted a
considering
camera
the
to be
size
able to
of that camera.
focus that close before. I wish that camera had macro capabilities. It would be the best jump scare ever. Anyways, the orbital launch mount that we have now at the pad is very much like version 1. I don't expect them all to look like that forever, and very clearly the current... Oh, the spider's gone. It's safe. Oh, no, it's back. It's back.
Right at the top.
Just like SpaceX is continuing to iterate its vehicles, it will also iterate its pads. And
Yeah.
very clearly, the current pad can only support so many launches in a given period of time. And that's what we were talking about during SBU, saying that the time between Flight 3 and Flight 4 might be indicative of the actual, like, what the pad is capable of being turned around in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what the second tower's for. They're going to build that, I'm sure, with all of the lessons learned from the first launch pad, right?
Yeah, and if if you will, and allow me, I have a little rant going on here as well, with this that, this type of question assumes that everything that we see right now is what eventually will enable that, and that is not the case, right? And I see that both from fans and sort of detractors or haters kind of thing. You usually see these sort of videos that are like, debunked, SpaceX fails again, that kind of stuff where they're like, they want to launch every single day, right? And they cannot do that. Like, you see that kind of thing from the haters, and you also see, the super fans being like, oh my God, they're gonna launch again tomorrow, right? Like that kind of stuff. I think, at least in my opinion, is not healthy. But sadly, there has to be a bit of everything in this world, I guess, and so that's why they're here. But what I'm trying to go with this is that when we talk about iterative design and iterative procedures here, it's precisely that. It's not just the vehicles; it's also the pad systems. We've seen that with Falcon 9, and I hate to bring up Falcon 9, but it's truly the case that, Falcon 9 was sort of the previous other rocket that SpaceX developed. And if you look at how the pads were, like the first few launches that were from Slick 40, from Space Launch Complex 40, were completely different. Things like hoses, the umbilical hoses being completely exploded by the exhaust of the Falcon 9. Like, just imagine that, right? Completely bonkers. That was such a damage that Falcon 9 used to left on that vehicle, on that pad. And nowadays, the new Falcon 9 is, the Falcon 9 of nowadays is like twice as powerful, and it can launch, 10 times as faster as the one in the beginning. So expect the same kind of approach. It is true, though, that Slick 40 kind of had a forced revamp. MO6, if you remember. But similar thing will happen with Starship.
But Alex, don't lie. You do not hate to bring up Falcon 9. You love to bring up Falcon 9, and we appreciate you for it.
True.
So yeah, I mean, expect the second tower and the second pad in Starbase to look different in some ways. I'm sure it'll look the same in many ways, but who knows? Shorter chopsticks, different kind of mount. And we're already seeing work happening at 39A on the launch pad for Starship there, and who knows what that's going to end up looking like. Justin Sean's, thanks for coming a Pad Rat member. Hey, look, was that the spider again?
Yes.
It's our friend. He's back.
I don't like this camera.
I'd rather be
right
flying
now.
an X-Wing. No, it's a great camera. It's great. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing. They say moon train question while we wait. To me, a caravan makes the most sense because we will need rovers no matter what, so it's solved homework. No rail because the best part is no part. We were talking about this on NSF Live last week, and I don't think you're wrong. I'm super curious if moon train, if it ever ends up existing, will have rails, or what it will look like, or even once they do the study and hopefully release the results, what they come up with the optimal solution for that is. But this makes sense, X-Wing. All aboard the moon train.
So you're saying in contrast to us, oh my god, that was the spider again. In contrast to us, the moon train actually has rails.
Sometimes. I mean, potentially. It could also have no rails. I mean, I probably prefer... No, I want rails on a moon train.
Is a
Doug
train
Bell.
without rails even a train?
Yes.
Isn't that just a car?
There are trains
No.
that don't have rails, but I think the canonical train has rails.
Well, I mean, oh, okay, monorail, it has a single rail, okay, and the maglev is maglev, I guess.
But it also has
Yeah, I
a
don't know, I
rail, like
think-
the maglevs still have rails for sure. They don't touch the
saw
rail, but they
NSF
have a
Live.
rail.
Yeah.
Mule trains.
Hi, Das.
There are mule trains and wagon trains.
Yeah, that is true.
They don't have
I-
rails.
Yep, they don't have rails. Good call.
I watched NSF Live a bit difficulty because I was a bit tired already by then. But I did watch NSF Live, and there was a proposal. I think it was either in the comments, or was EJ or you, Jack, or Sawyer. Someone said something along the lines of, "You probably don't even want rails on the moon. Like, it's probably good to have things like maglevs, because then you avoid of having to have things are close to the ground with all of the regolith and everything." I don't know. That's an interesting idea as well. Like, maybe not everything.
Yeah,
needs
if you
to
want
be
if you want more on
wheels.
this, if you want more on this, and you haven't watched NSF Live from last week yet, we did a lot of discussion about the moon train. I do worry about, like, if it's a maglev sort of situation, like the lunar regolith does have a static charge, like EJ was saying, so
Oh,
you don't want to
You know?
you don't want to have a maglev that just sucks in a bunch of regolith as it goes or something. I don't know. Moon train, it's
watched-
interesting. How will they do it?
I watched another NSF Live this weekend. It was on Sunday this time around with hi Das, with
Hey, how's
Das
it
and
going?
Alicia, and I believe it was the chief engineer of Ingenuity, and he was actually talking about how some of the dust it's like stuck on the vehicle because of the static charge that builds up, and so it's like sometimes it's just hard to get rid of. I can imagine something like that also happening with regolith, I guess, if there's no wind, but you can still have. He even talked about that in terms of engine exhaust being thrown around, and sort of having that kind of stuff. And you know who you can also talk about with engine exhaust? Phil Metzger.
Phil Metzger. There you go.
Exactly. I was laughing about that because it's like I'm plugging everything, but it's true. Like you gotta watch everything that NSF puts out because it's all connected. Just connect the dots, and you learn.
It's like a breadth of like a wide bit of information. It's not just super focused on one thing, but there's so many different things that are tied together or related, and you can learn this one thing from this other thing, and this other thing from this other thing. Like when we did the NSF Live with the Ingenuity chief engineer, he was talking about radio shadows and how if they were on the wrong side of a dune, they didn't have signal. I was like, that's what we deal with every day at Starbase. Like, you literally step over the wrong sand dune and you don't have signal there, and then everybody's like, oh, there's no cell phone coverage at Starbase. And it's like, yeah, there is. You just need to understand how cell phone coverage works. It's not magic.
What about Dune?
Yeah,
It's
right.
It's fun. I had that with the when I talked with the Edifix designers. Interesting side note here: they don't even know what the surface will be on Deimos. So they had to design wheels with different purposes because so far nobody actually knows what the exact property of the ground is they land on. They can assume, but they don't have a fixed understanding of how the ground will be even behave. Which is like I never would have think about that because KSP doesn't have my knowledge stops at KSP. After that, I'm done.
You need like RSS for ground terrain. Like this is sand that your rover wheels slip in, and this is hard rocks that breaks your rover wheels or whatever.
Yeah, they developed a hybrid of a wheel and like shovels almost. So if it's hard rock, the wheel would work, and if it's sand, like the shovels will work.
Nice.
So that's like the way how they solved it. But it's super interesting because, well, how would you know what the ground is like, right?
We can keep this view right now. I believe Jack was talking about before of how the flames went over the berm. I did see in previous tests that it did go over the berm. But there you can see some of that scorch from the engine test on that berm. That's not the shadow of a Starship. At first I thought it was the shadow. A few vehicles before, I don't think they repainted that berm ever since they created it. So it already has a few static fires under its belt, put it that way. But yeah, it's becoming more and more dark from that engine plume in big
Just slightly more scorchy.
Toasty berm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we ever open a Starbase restaurant, one of the appetizers can be the toasty berm.
There we go. First course already settled. Hey Chad, do you have more ideas for SpaceX inspired food? Let us know.
Yeah. Doug Bell. Thank you for becoming a launch director. Very, very awesome of you. Once again, you get your name at the end of NASA Spaceflight Live episodes and all of the other sweet perks like the members multi-view, where you don't have to listen to us talk and you can hear the nice sounds unfettered by my annoying voice. And all the behind-the-scenes stuff and the photos and you get Discord access. So, Doug, enjoy your perks and thank you for the support. M. Watney, reference acknowledged. Thanks for becoming a Padrat member. Space Pope, thank you for the very generous super chat there. They say if the $50 super sticker doesn't get any love, maybe this super chat will. Love the commentary, folks. Would love a 24/7 live view of the Pope stack. Oh, did we miss a super sticker? I'm sorry if we did. But either way, Space Pope, every time your name pops up, I get to think about how much I love Futurama. And I get to sing the little Space Pope jingle. And I know if Moldy's still here, Moldy's laughing. So, we love you. We love you, Space Pope. Sorry if we missed one. And your request for a 24/7 Pope stack has been noted. Mr. Banana, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Hop into Discord and say hey. Anonymous, thank you for the store purchase. They say thanks for keeping us informed while at the gateway. Papa Jack in San Antonio, Texas. And they got a metal print, which is awesome because a portion of that sale goes to support the photographer who made that image. Ninja Decimator, thank you for the support. They say Spider Cam, Spider Cam. I'm not going to sing the whole thing. I don't know. There was a beautiful static fire, but I think my favorite part of the stream might have been Spider Cam.
No.
No.
Bob Smith, thank you for the
That says
support.
everything.
They say Rube Goldberg idea. Pneumatic, robotic, air shooter, spider remover. Hey, that's not a bad idea. I bet DOS could build it. Like a little air gun that's pointed at the lens of a robot camera.
Wait.
That can,
Jack,
yeah.
time out. Does it like shoot spiders off the lens, or does it shoot spiders like it propels the spiders at people?
Second thing, it shoots spiders.
Shoot spiders.
So we can use it. We can use it to harass Adrian.
It's a spider shooter.
I really don't like this trend.
You know,
Maybe, like,
instead of shooting, it should be like a vacuum, and it collects them, and then you can throw them at Adrian to scare him.
I wanna point out how deep this goes sometimes. I get DMs from Max and Jack saying like, "Hey, look at this interesting thing," and I open my DM, spider. Then I go to my Instagram account. I go to my DMs. Jack DM'd me a spider picture. Like there's spiders everywhere.
You heard it here, folks, from Adrian himself. He loves spiders. DM him spiders. He loves it.
Yeah, that was the lesson I wanted to bring everybody near there. Thanks for translating that.
You didn't have to go. Like, you did not have to go there, but you did. So here we are.
By the way, it's Adrian,
And
not Alex.
Gary-
'Cause a lot
go
of
ahead,
people
Alex.
confuse
Alex-
us, and they talk to me and they're like, "Oh, Adrian, I love your commentary." I was like, "I was not on that stream. You're talking about the other Adrian." I say usually like the other Adrian, the real one, the one that is actually Adrian, not me.
That also happens to me, by the way. I think people are confusing the both two Europeans and are like, "Oh, European like Starship."
You two are so completely different. I don't know how anyone could confuse the two of you, other than you both have names that start with the letter A.
That's true. But Alex has a few more letters than me. Actually, Alex's first name has more
Ew.
letters than my full name.
That is true. And let's not talk about my two last names, because that's a whole different thing.
True. Speaking of detanking, ship continues to detank. I don't know. I don't have a good update. I tried to deflect.
I was going to keep doing support, but you guys decided to rant, so I figured I'd just let you go.
Thanks for that.
Someone say, Mick Ronald says, Alex equals Spain, Adrian equals Germany. Yeah, there you go.
Yes. Gary, thank you for the store purchase. They say, hi, be safe, folks.
Is it correct that we have a Starlink launch in like 90 minutes from now? Like 3? Interesting.
What? Fun.
Yeah.
SpaceX not slowing down. 6-46. I'm hosting that, aren't I?
Yes, you do.
All right.
Am I commentating on that one?
Whee!
Don't think so. Right?
This is. Let
Ooh.
me see. No, it's Jack and Sawyer with Max on the field.
Mr. Pun himself.
Joy. That's going to be a good one.
Oh my God!
Adrian just got spidered by none other than the Burgonator himself in our work, like the live stream channel we use in Discord. That is amazing. When you get dunked on by Bergen himself.
He sent a message at Adrian, "Are we covering this milestone?" And it is a picture of a spider.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
Lord.
Great work, Chris. Great
Oh.
work.
I jumped in my chair.
John is asking, don't they need at least 2 orbital launch? Oh, go ahead.
He made a tiny URL with a Starship info tab that I was supposed to click on.
He really, he did a great job.
Yeah.
Do not cross Crispy. John wants to know if they need 2 orbital launch mounts before they can launch more than once per day. Yes, currently no way they can launch more than once per day with their current mount. But it won't be that way forever. Peter C is asking, oh, Alex is going to love this. What do you think will be the first Starship with windows like we've seen in the renders? Will we ever? So, Alex, what do you think will be the Starship we see first with windows?
Well, I cannot give an exact
Or you
number,
just-
right? Because if
No,
I do,
it has to be an
you
exact
two-
number. All right, that's fine.
Ship 55. Let's see. And it'll probably be an HLS Starship, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first HLS Starship would be my
Yeah.
guess.
And I say, yeah, around the 55 number.
So that would
Nice.
mean the demo one.
The
The
spider.
spider spec. Yeah. The demo one, because you would test the window and the stuff on a demo flight, right?
Yeah, I think we're about, if not 15, maybe 20 ships down the line when we will see HLS demo stuff. That's my thinking. In the meantime, I think there's probably gonna be like a bunch of other ships about, orbital refueling and Starlink launches and things like that. That's why I'm saying like maybe 20 until that.
Yeah, I think that's all very logical. Alex, why do you dislike these questions? You do so well at them.
Because then it's not gonna be that. It's probably gonna be, I don't know, ship 69. Because of course that will be what they will do, and or ship 33. They could cut out. Well, not 33 because it's scrapped, but they could, cut out like a not that one, Alex. Oh, they could cut out like a window or something on ship 30 or something. I don't know. Who knows? They did that with Dragon. The very first Dragon in 2010, it had a window on it. So, subsequent cargo Dragons didn't have that, but then when they flew Crew Dragon, it had windows too.
Are you sure it's
Neat.
not Linux?
Jeez.
You
Okay,
said Windows one too many times, so I had to
Yep.
jump on it.
you're already setting the stage for when Sawyer is on the Starlink stream, right? Because that feels
Yeah,
like
I'm throwing pun tokens in chat because Bob Smith, thank you for the support. They say, hey Alex, you should share what you fear for no reason.
He dislikes
Uh,
spiders as well. He dislikes spiders as well.
Well, I'm scared of big spiders, of course, but not small ones. Like the small ones, I just take my shoe and just, splat it against the wall or against the ground. I
Kill
don't know.
what? No, don't kill the spiders. Why would you kill the spider?
Oh,
It's eating
excuse me,
insects. It's not gonna
no.
bother you.
No, I don't kill the spiders. I take my shoe and I push them over the window and let them free. That's exactly what
There
I
you
do.
go, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I even with small spiders, I get stunned, and then I'm like staring at them, and they stay back, and then we have like a stare down.
I love that this has become spider chat.
Yeah,
Someone
I don't
asked.
like this.
So
I can
in summary, don't DM Alex spiders. Do DM Adrian spiders.
To be frank, just pictures of animals don't really trip me. To be fair, even the most scary animals don't.
Mm.
Like snakes and things like that, it's like super scary to me. But it's like, okay, it's a photo, even a video. I don't care.
DM Alex pictures of
I
non.
definitely-
The problem is if I see them in real life, right? Which is worse. But like a video or a picture, I don't care. Not like I'm telling you to do that. Then my DMs are just useless. So please don't do that. But it's not about being scary. It's actually about my DMs not being useful. Which, to be fair, you probably want my DMs to be useful. I don't know. Just saying.
That's fair. And Adrian's as well. I kid.
I
Do it.
actually take a revenge on Jack because I see people like talking about that. The easiest way to I revenge Jack is I have my Instagram algorithm at this point primed to people destroying their cameras, and I send Jack pictures of like people washing their lenses with soap and I don't know smashing their lens with a hammer and stuff. Like that's how I send back.
The thing is, though, it's not. I don't know what you're. Oh, I do know what you're trying to achieve, but it's nothing I haven't seen before. I mean, it's kind of a meme thing in the photographer camera operator world where if you have a camera that's broken, you're like, oh, I'm gonna wash it, and then everyone cringes when they watch the video. So it's nothing I haven't seen before, buddy. You gotta up your game.
Yeah, but I have not found yet your one weakness that I can easily find on Instagram.
That's right. That's right. I'd rather be flying an X-Wing. Thank you for the support. They say, can we do a Starbase Live where NSF supporters guest, Moldy Space, Stabby Unicorn, etc., one or two at a time with a couple prepared questions? I would love that. Didn't we do... Is Das still here? Das, didn't you do like a Kerbal 2 stream with Moldy?
Yep.
Yeah, we did
They
a
were
Kerbal
there.
stream. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun. So if you want that exists, and maybe we should do something like that again sometime when we have copious free time.
Oh.
Yeah, I'd be totally down to do it. It's just in the copious free time, like I barely have time to play Kerbal anymore. I really wish I had more time to play Kerbal, but I don't. I do lots of other.
Have you messed with Kerbal 2 lately?
Lately it would have been a month or two ago when the science update came out. I had some time to click around in it, but not nearly as much as I used to. So
We need you to miss again with it so that you can analyze the third flight for Starship.
see, I was telling EJ he should try to recreate the loss of control and how the flaps couldn't get control of it because there wasn't enough atmosphere. Like I think you could simulate a lot of that in Kerbal, at least so that it looks the same, even if it's not the exact same forces at play, right? I don't know.
I'm pretty sure my one shuttle I tried to build in KSP1 basically had that failure mode every single time. So, yeah.
I always have the problem on KSP that I don't know how to build planes, so you can expect me not to build properly a shuttle because, of course, it's a plane in space, so it's even worse.
You need like a boot camp, like a KSP plane building boot camp.
In the 1 month where
Please.
Starship doesn't like launch, we will do a DAS teaches the NSF team how to play Kerbal properly stream.
I can do rockets, but planes, it's like, no, I don't understand how to build this thing. Like when I
They're
get one
probably
thing
buried
right,
on our
I get
channel
the other
somewhere,
wrong.
but they're probably buried on our channel somewhere. But they're or maybe it's on your Twitch, Das. There was like that one time I gave you a save file and I was like, can you please help?
Oh jeez, I don't know.
And
if
just
that got-
watching your reactions to how horribly I built my spacecraft it made me happy.
Whatever, we got it back home safely, didn't we? Like I think it was like in a solar orbit or something, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we got it back. I don't know if we archived that off because Twitch does the thing where like if you don't archive it after X amount of time, it deletes the old VODs. It's not like YouTube where every VOD is saved forever if you tell it to do that. So I don't know if that's still around or not. It may not be, unfortunately.
Either way,
Remember-
at some point, someday, Kerbal streams, NSF. I would love an NSF Kerbal boot camp with you.
Do you remember when you had those stranded Kerbals on Eve and we all tried to help you on that
Oh no,
on the members
They're
Discord?
still there.
They're still
They're
there?
still there.
they're still there.
I never.
I'm
I
gonna go
never.
and save them.
I never recovered them. You said that. Nobody. I don't think anybody successfully
what's the
fulfilled the
word?
criteria of.
You have weird mods
It's
on,
been a
on
long-
your game.
I do have weird mods. Don't we all have weird mods? Isn't that like a hallmark of playing Kerbal for like more than 500 hours as you accumulate some weird mods?
I didn't have any mods until I actually had to save your Kerbals. So
If it
like,
doesn't
really?
produce
it's stock.
if it doesn't produce at least 50 error messages when you start up your game, it's not my Kerbal.
You're not really playing Kerbal, yeah. All right, well, the ship is continuing to be detanked. We're hanging out, waiting to see what happens next. Maybe they'll open the road. Maybe they'll do some more testing with the ship of some kind. Can we see a flap wiggle? Come on, SpaceX, give us a flap wiggle.
Pip29 saying hello, please.
Absolutely. We like waving ship.
The lead is asking, when NSF CubeSat? Das, do
feel
you ever
like,
feel
yeah.
like Sisyphus?
I don't think Sisyphus was trying to launch CubeSats.
That's correct.
Fair.
I need to brush up on my mythology, but I'm pretty sure it had nothing to do with CubeSats.
He tried to roll the CubeSat up a hill.
Yeah, rolled. I mean, there's a hill, I guess. The gravity well is a pretty good hill. CubeSats right there in the name.
I didn't mean
cube.
literally with the CubeSat. I
Not
just
gonna
meant you
roll
have a
very
lot to
well.
do, so you're constantly rolling the boulder up the hill.
Yeah,
But a CubeSat would be cool.
that is true. Yes, that would be cool. There is lots of boulders. Sometimes it's like juggling boulders. If you imagine making Sisyphus' job worse. Is there something about a grackle eating his liver or something?
Wasn't that
Yeah.
Prometheus?
Yeah, Prometheus was the whole with the Grackle raid.
Oh, jeez, the grackle.
I to be fair, all my Greek mythology I know is from the game Hades. Like that's basically my education of Greek mythology. So
Mine is between God of War and Supernatural, so like don't.
oh,
just
true.
me.
Stargate
Yeah.
covered mythology pretty well, but I don't think they covered Greek mythology very well. It was sort of like a side there.
Yeah, Egyptian. Like I know a lot about Egyptian gods thanks to Stargates.
All right, who
Oh,
was
someone
Hathor
mentioning
again?
Percy Jackson too. Yeah.
It's always these weird knowledge bursts you have in casual conversations. They're like, oh, why did you know so much about Egyptian mythology? And I'm like, well, I watched Stargate.
That question could not have gone better.
Yes.
Bob Smith, thank you for the support. They say, I don't know if it got a name, but I loved Destruction Cam from the last launch. There were several. I mean, D got an amazing shot with the camera like falling backwards, and then the booster was like in frame for a little bit. Like whichever camera you mean, we
It
appreciate
didn't
it
fall
because
backwards, Jack.
I mean,
It was a Noto track 2.0, right, Des?
oh right.
Yeah.
It was auto track.
Auto track, yeah.
Auto track squared. Let's see. Thomas Harper is saying, do you think if they added legs onto it, they could land Starship's booster? Alex, this is the part where you get to rant about mass bloat on the booster being really easy because it's big.
Well, that's more of a you rant. I do actually agree that it will be fairly easy to just add legs and don't care about the payload because of the same thing that I mentioned before. They are mostly limited by the volume of the payload bay. It seems like, oh, it's big, but it's like the ship can also carry a lot of payload in terms of mass, right? To fill 100 tons of mass of any kind, like you really need really dense materials to be able to fit that inside of that payload bay. You cannot fit that that easily. The only reason to actually have higher payload performance is just for the tankers, because your payload bay, so to speak, is just your tank. Like you just have leftover propellant. And so if you can have 150 tons left over, that's better than 100, because that's, like, wait, that's 50% more. Oh boy, I had to do that off the top of my head, because brain a little bit mush now from all the time here. But yeah, the whole problem with a payload mass is not just the capability of throwing more stuff or farther away, I should say, because it's not just 100 tons to low Earth orbit, but if you can throw more to low Earth orbit, that means that you can throw something that is smaller but farther away, because you have that sort of leftover delta V. So at the end of the day, it's all about that, about trying to reduce the dry mass of the vehicle precisely so that they can throw more propellant and more payload farther away rather than just to low Earth orbit. And that's where it's like, if the ship was a completely expendable vehicle, I can see adding legs to the booster not being a problem. Because then, you strip down the flaps, you strip down the heat shield, you strip down a lot of systems. The nose cone wouldn't even be a nose cone, it will be a fairing, right? It will be the usual thing that splits, you separate it halfway through your launch and you get rid of it and things like that. It will be much easier in terms of the dry mass of the vehicle for the ship. And that could probably enable the booster to have a legs and not be really that big of a deal. But I mean, that case, why not just go with catching again, right? Just go full on performance, performance optimization. But yeah, I do. I, I'm still of the thinking that it will be so much elegant for the booster to just land on legs, even if they are static legs, like the original sort of Starship design when it was first called the Starship, and they had these static legs coming out of the booster. But
Right. The flags, the flap legs.
no, that was the Starship. But that is also true. Although I'm not a fan of the flags. I was never a fan of having three aft flaps. One of them doesn't really do any flap thing. It's just like a leg. I didn't like that.
You know what? That's fair, but I will always miss the flags.
I think it looked cooler, and that's the only purpose it had.
Yeah. But it wasn't any better.
Hey man,
You're adding another
through
leg.
asymmetry,
essentially.
the best flag is no flag, I guess.
Just
Yeah,
wait
it's,
until they are. Just wait until they are in like ship 120 something, and then they change the flaps again or something.
I kind of want to see like I wonder how the flaps will look. We've heard so many times they will change the flaps. Like we have heard so many times, oh, there's updates to the flags, or this and that, and honestly, they didn't change that much.
Right, and it's just one of those things where is that going to be a V2 Starship thing? Is that going to be a V3 Starship thing? Will it ever actually happen? To me, changing the shape of the flaps now, as they're just beginning to acquire re-entry data, it's like doesn't a flap geometry change throw a sort of a wrench in the works there? Like you're going to have to start from scratch again. I mean, I guess there's certain assumptions you can carry over, but yeah, I don't know. If you could have like a crystal ball or whatever magic window into the future, and you could see one thing Starship program related from I don't know 2034, like what would you want to see? Like what does the lander look like? What does the pad look like? Like you get to see one thing from the Starship program in 2034. What do you pick to see? Adrian, go first.
What's the landing mechanism of the upper stage?
Nice. Alex?
I think that's my. Just to elaborate on that, I don't want to say like, oh, I think they're going the wrong way right now, because I lack the authority to say that, and like they're way smarter than I would ever like be on this topic. I just like I want to see if landing, like catching the ship, will stick, or if there will be a totally different approach. That's my, I think my biggest.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. I see some good ones coming up in chat too. Johan says the first catch. Sink says the toilet system. Alex, what would you see in your magic mirror?
I was gonna hope that Adrian will say whether they have the grass vent or not.
Already removing it. They're already removing it.
I know. It's gonna go away. Well, I mean, it's gonna be replaced by whatever thing they put for the second pad. So just wait. But boy, I wouldn't be able to say, to be fair. I do expect perhaps V3, so Starship version 3, if they actually extend the ship, I do see probably a change in the flaps, because it's going to change the whole aerodynamics by being longer and everything. But as you mentioned, like 10 years into the future, 2034, Boy, do they have a toilet in the Mars base? That's probably gonna be my question.
Really?
Oh,
Really, Alex?
you're talking about Mars space in 2034 because that's
Hey, gotta be optimistic, right? Nah, but yeah, it's gonna be weird to think about what else is gonna be happening 10 years from now. I don't, I don't really have like a pressing thought. I even doubt what else is gonna happen like 1 year from now,
Are you
let
serious?
alone
You have-
10 years
Alex, you
from
have
now.
a magic window into a decade into the future, and you don't have a pressing thought. You don't want to see what an HLS ship looks like. You don't want to, like, how do you not have, how? How are you the way you are?
I have all of those thoughts, but it's like I just don't have one of them that stands out. I don't know. I
Okay,
just
that's
wonder
fair.
about everything because it's like I want to see all. I want to. The other day I was talking with Jax from the Ring Watchers, and we were talking precisely about how they're renovating the 39A pad. And I was like, "Where's the forward button here? Like, where is it? Because I want to see how it looks like in the future, right? It's like I want to go 1 year into the future and see how that pad looks like. I guess you can call that maybe the, but again, I also wonder how HLS ships are gonna look like. Is there gonna be any difference with booster version 3 or whatever, right? Like, I want to have a fast forward button on like a remote or something and be able to go and check that out. But there's so many things to check out. Is the second pad going to have also a second tank farm? Or is it going to share the first tank farm? Is it going to have a plate as well? Is it going to have a different OLM, just like the 39A pad
Can
looks to be going through? Like, there's so many questions, Jack. I cannot pick one. You're making me choose, and I hate that.
yeah, we know.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Can I cheat?
Making you choose is your spiders. I'm sorry.
Can I cheat?
Pete,
Can I see a starship on, like, if there's one thing I'm curious is like, how does the whole starship look on the pad for the first launch of that year? I think that's already answering a lot of my questions.
What?
Like, I
yeah,
want to just
that would answer a lot of questions.
I just want to have a wide shot of that first launch in that year during fueling of a ship. Like, I think that's already answering a lot of my questions because I see the infrastructure.
It will probably be on January 1st at 1 a.m. or something. Like,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be the first launch of 2034 is probably going to be a Starship being like on January 1st, 1 hour into the year.
You laugh now, but it's still Falcon 9.
Yeah, that's Falcon 9. Falcon 9, when you look at Falcon 9, it's like every single year for the past 4 years. It's either been the first or the second, and it's been like the very first week of the year. This year it was actually India. They launched on January 1st. That was cool. But previous years it was always Falcon, the first one of the year.
There we go. Cannot ask
Yeah.
a question like this to Alex and me. That's gonna like end.
I was
Like
looking
chaos.
No,
through
I did it
here.
for a reason because I have other stuff I'm trying to do. So I did that on purpose so that you would talk for a while, which you did, and I
So-
appreciate you for it.
It's like a tactical decoy you threw into the room and be like, go. Yes, Adrian. Can you tell when Jack is busy?
I'm busy.
Probably.
Okay. Questions. Let's do more. Let's do more questions.
Throws another one.
Damien is asking, why is the ship SQD port always venting locks during every launch? Is that just
Part
like a
of the
purge kind of
process.
thing?
I mean, the
Yeah, but
port
why?
itself. I don't know. I know about the QD arm, like not the QD arm itself, but like the tower vent. That's part of the purge process that they do. Like they call it the QD vent down sequence. Other than that, I don't really know.
I do wonder if the port on the ship vents in this just in the same way, and it's like a purge kind of thing. Purge it out with nitrogen or something, and stop it from having any chance of fire being in places where fire shouldn't be.
Which is so far a very like problem of the Starship program. Fire where fire shouldn't be.
Right. Steven is asking, will there be a huge berm between the two towers once both active? Adrian, this is your chance to make a Lord of the Rings reference.
I mean, between the two towers, there's like Gondor and like parts of Rohan. No, I, I'm not sure because in theory they should have the deluge for anything big, right? So that's probably your answer of how they gonna make sure that they are not blowing up everything. And I think that's probably the answer. There will probably be some sort of berm structure. I would be surprised if there's like nothing, but I don't think like there's a giant, enormous wall that they are having between the two. I think it's just gonna be some protection berm, but like they already use, and that's it.
May I chime in here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe there's
Please.
not even a need for a wall. Because we're talking about, 39A probably changing. We don't know how the new design will look like, right? So
true.
there's the whole possibility here that whatever they build next might not even interfere with the first pad, which will mean no need for a berm. That's a total possibility.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I subscribe
Adrian,
to
have you
Alex
seen that guy on
Newsom's-
Instagram that have you seen that guy on Instagram that does it's like airplane facts with Max or something like that? And he starts off talking about some sort of aviation or airplane related thing, and then it
Yes.
rapidly devolves into Lord of the Rings talk.
Yeah, of course. I watch every single.
Do you think he could do that, but with Starship?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I humbly request some member content. Let's see. Hop Hayes has an idea for another menu item, mid-bay meatloaf. That sounds awful. I'm sorry, Hop Hayes, but we were just talking about how the mid-bay was all dusty when they demolished it. Like, who wants dusty meatloaf?
That's not me.
Mega Bay meatloaf. And that's the kind of meatloaf I want.
By the way.
What? Did you seriously just say that?
It's probably I don't know the translation.
I don't know even how to describe it. It's it's a loaf of meat. It says what it is in the name.
Oh, yeah, I think we call it in Germany like Hackfleisch. Yeah, that makes sense.
A dish of ground meat that has been combined with other ingredients to form into the shape of a loaf, then baked or smoked. Meatloaf.
Yeah.
It's delicious. I'll make you some.
Thank you. Looking forward.
San is asking, does the entire static fire Starship tests move to Massey's after the completion of work on Tower number 2? I think it's well before then. Like, they have to get rid of this pad right now that we're looking at, Pad B, in order to build Pad 2. Would be my assumption. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. But either way, they are building that static fire pad over at Massey's, so only a matter of time until Pad B is gone.
Which is weird. Again, it's like it's the original area. Like that's the eyes. Our eyes were peeled into that pad, like in like the general suborbital area since the early Hopper days, and then it's just at some point just gone. I don't know. Maybe it's just me being nostalgic, but it will be weird.
In the background saying, "Look at that, Adrian, grass fence."
Thank you.
So Adrian, now that we have the grass vent, what does that tell us about the timeline for today?
It's over. Test already happened. Good try, though.
Yeah, I tried.
It's like one of these things where I will be sad once it's gone, but right now it's still there, so I can be still be grumpy, you know?
Right.
Well, it'll be gone because they'll have, you know, the actual launch pad instead of like a supergirl pad.
Imagine if they do a grass fend for the orbital pad. That would be like if it's still at the same place. I
mean-
would be so mad.
It kind of happens already with like the. There you go, zoom in. It kind of happens already with the subcoolers and everything, right? Especially the liquid oxygen subcoolers. They fill everything. It's more like the concrete vent now.
We have two questions here that are kind of interrelated. Gregory is asking, do you think Starship will be the end all be all for SpaceX, or do you think that SpaceX will develop a whole new rocket family and make Starship obsolete someday? And the second question is, wouldn't you hope, it's from Joe, he says, wouldn't you hope they develop a better propulsion system like nuclear, where you don't have to carry, where you don't have to refuel or carry hundreds of tons of propellant and LUX on every launch? So, future, way far in the future, evolutions of this system, it's like, yes, some sort of nuclear propulsion makes sense to me as a third stage, and Starship seems perfectly capable of lofting some payload like that. Will we see SpaceX develop a larger vehicle? Frankly, I don't expect that necessarily in my lifetime. I mean, I think anything they develop will just be a scaled up Starship, whether it's a wider diameter or what have you, but I don't know, this feels like the peak of the chemical rocket to me, with the full flow stage combustion engines. You can use it to launch things that are more efficient, like a nuclear third stage or some sort of kick stage and stuff, but at a certain point, just start building things in space with the Starship architecture. Adrian, it sounds like you have some other thoughts. I mean, I know there's other, like full flow stage combustion isn't the end of the propellant and propulsion development. Like there's rotating detonation engines. I get it. There's all kinds of cool stuff, but I don't know. What do you think, Adrian?
I mean, you could, for example, make fiber work. Like it's yes, SpaceX gave up fiber for certain amounts of trade-offs, but like carbon fiber, making a carbon fiber structure work would drastically shift the weight balance of the ship, and like that would be like it's always this, when do you classify it as a next rocket, right? There are lessons learned and applications made from Falcon that are implemented on Starship. Will every rocket following this learn from Starship and have like a certain amount of similarities? Probably for the near future in terms of SpaceX. But for example, if they make a 13-meter diameter Starship, I would classify that as a new rocket. Like that's no longer Starship for me. That's whatever they call it. That's bigger. That's the like I wouldn't no longer allow that to be classified as, oh, it's just Starship. No. So,
Super Starship, Starship Plus, Starship Max, Starship Ultra.
Yeah, like, but it's no longer Starship
Pro. Alex, what do you think?
Suspiciously like another company right now.
Alex, what do you think?
I don't think that nuclear is that higher, better performance. There are different aspects of nuclear that are cool in terms of performance, but it also has drawbacks. For example, it depends on the propellant that you use. If you use hydrogen, which is essentially what the current technology of nuclear propulsion is going through, hydrogen is low density, so you need to make a really big tank to hold the propellant for the nuclear engine, and that kind of goes against the sort of performance increase that you get. Obviously, it's going to be better than hydrolux, right? Because you have essentially a hydrogen fuel there as well. So and so the ISP is like double that of hydrologs. So for about the same kind of size, you probably have about double the performance. But if you compare that to a high density fuel like methane, you start to get drawbacks there in terms of, what do you build? A higher performance engine that needs a really big tank, or a, or you just get that big tank, but you cram a lot of fuel that is higher density, and therefore you have more mass ratio, which is the other part of the delta V equation. It's like delta V is the exhaust velocity of the engine, right? Times the natural log of the mass ratio of the rocket. If you can cram a lot more propellant into the same kind of dry mass, that sometimes, if you do the math, it kind of compensates, and you can still have like a big vehicle with big tanks, but instead you put higher density fuels inside, chemical high density fuels, and you get that. Same thing as ion thrusters, for example. They are super high ISP, but they're not good for thrust, for example. But you can probably put that, like a bunch of them on some, on crude probe, and that can get you very, very far away. So there are drawbacks, of course, but I think the breakthrough will be when we go nuclear, but it's not that kind of nuclear. It's like fusion, or even beyond that, say, for example, subatomic particles, in terms of, antimatter and matter, or other kind of weird propulsion, exotic propulsion, where your reaction mass is just a couple of kilograms, and that gets you multiple times the delta V of current, um, you know, current systems. But that's like super way out there.
Good answers all around. Interesting questions. I like when we get interesting questions. Josh Schulten, thank you again for the support. They say Zephyr Cochrane's first warp test flight was in the year 2063. Is SpaceX on track? I wish I could say yes.
Yeah.
Stupid speed of light.
Yeah, I see. I don't think warp drive is possible. I know there are lots of theories out there, but I don't know. I'm skeptical about that. I mean, I don't say that
All right,
because,
well, at
oh
risk
my
of-
gosh, whatever. But yeah, I could go on a rant about
At
that as
risk
well.
of-
But we have
Yeah,
other
I can
things to
I can
talk about.
sense that, and I'm trying to stop you.
Exactly. There's other things to talk about. Let's talk about them.
We'll have to save that for our next stream. But Samuel, thank you for grabbing a whole bunch of stuff from the store. They say plan on checking out the SpaceX site after the eclipse. Nice. Always recommend to people to get out to Starbase if they can. Looks like they got the hat and some other items as well. Thank you so much, Samuel. Cool. Well, I think with the ship basically detanked at this point, we will wrap things up, but we do have a replay video that just went live. I will spam the link into chat. So if you want to go back and watch the replays from all the different angles, there is the link. You can check that out. Go watch that. We're going to wrap up our commentary for today's testing. And we do have a Starlink stream also coming up in a couple hours. Scrub and window changes pending, but we'll see how that goes. Either way, thank you so much for watching, and Adrian, thanks for being on commentary.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this one, and you gotta love static fire.
Can't go wrong. Alex, thank you as well.
It's always a